uh, with that, acknowledgement to the NIT Rourkela food process engineering team, I'm delighted to be here with you this morning, and want to share some of my personal perspectives and also the scenarios that the globe is facing in light of the COVID-19 situation. I think I don't want to get into too much of COVID-19 itself, but the effects on which the agri-food processing sector is playing locally, regionally, and globally. So with that in mind, as was introduced, I am a professor in the University of Saskatchewan that is located in Western Canada. And some of the professors I do recognize in the organizing faculty here are no strangers to this part of the world. And I'm sure that the culture of technology, innovation, and enterprise have been uplifted through participation and dissemination media through journal publications and conference presentations. And of course, I also gather there are students in this conference. Good luck and best wishes for you. So in this presentation, the plan is provide you with a snapshot of the scenarios in which the sectors which are directly affected and which are going to be affected in both positive and not so productive manner during the COVID. The title says post-COVID, but I should still say it's present, continuously happening. So it's still present and into the post. So I just wanted to make sure that we are setting the stage for a bit of a steeper curve in terms of timelines of the happenings, education, training, consumers, all together. So my talk will also touch upon the actual research projects that are happening in Canada, and particularly in my own research group towards the end of the presentation. And let me begin. The World Resources Institute projects about 16,000 trillions of calories that are necessary for global annual crop production, meaning it still requires an increase of 1.5% annually. That will require a step change in our ability to grow food. So production, primary production, that is agriculture, food comes after. So that projection in terms of trillions of calories by 2050, with post-harvest storage accounting to 50% or surrounding range, that's always a projected value that has been there for last 50 years. So significant numbers drop, perhaps in certain areas and certain sectors, that has not reduced globally. Okay, there may be still accounting to more than 75% in some sectors and some commodities. So the idea of Global Institute for Food Security, which I'm part of in this university, projects that particular growth of primary production. So in light of COVID, in light of climate change, in light of growing population. So there is a stress on every corners as we speak, and agri-food is the #1 vulnerable sector that gets affected. And we will see how we will narrow down our focus towards the consumer perspectives and research and development front, COVID and post-COVID. Chart here is in front of you, also depicts a steep increase in global food prices, which are on the uprise. The Food and Agriculture Organization is even projecting higher than what is shown on this graph coming into 2022. So that's not going down anywhere. I'm sure that you are familiar with some of the block diagrams in food process unit operations and basic educational material. But here is a chart that will also tag along primary production, rudimentary or conventional processing in terms of sales, revenues, profit, as you move along the value chain. Okay, primary production of a crop or a commodity as you process through various unit operations to achieve the scale that's shown on the bottom of the chart, 1x to 20x, is basically value chain derivative. When you advance the processing, strategy, innovation, and enterprise, of course, branding, marketing, positioning, everywhere you see that return on investment in terms of improvements in quality, in terms of return on investment in cash flow for companies, in terms of high quality training for investment in people and our ecosystem as a whole. So look at the overall value chain when you think about a sector. A chart here also connects the systems approach for food and agriculture of the COVID-19 crisis. On the top hand chart, you have bioactive ingredients that's focusing on health aspects.
Hello, excuse me, sir.
Sir, you are not audible, sir.
Sir.
I guess he's disconnected.
Yeah, I think he disconnected and Bipya, just wait.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Yeah, he messaged me. So just
Yes, sir.
continue. Yeah. Yeah, he's joining soon. Yeah. Hello, sir. Yeah. Yeah.
Are you seeing that?
Yes, sir.
I'm extremely sorry. The Zoom started to upload and upgrade on its own. I was not scheduling that to happen. I'm extremely sorry for that interruption. But nevertheless, I hope you had a chance to sip a cup of tea or catch a biscuit while the interruption was going on. So let me get back to this food safety within the crisis of pandemic we are dealing with. Sustainability of the food systems in the new and the upcoming era. Of course, within the population lockdown scenarios and beyond, food security even becomes more definitive in terms of its new dimension. So all compounded together, there is multifaceted challenge, there is multi-dimensional problem, and engineers and technology-oriented people can address that in terms of at least mitigating the deterioration effects and find some appropriate solutions. How can food processing and allied sectors such as agriculture, horticulture, fodder processing for the livestock, and so many other related sectors be reconfigured? The whole reconfiguration, and some people call that as a resetting of the things, which is in fact true, particularly when it applies to fresh fruits and vegetables and marine resources, post-harvest of grains and agricultural commodities. And as you up the value, it will reciprocate in terms of its either return on investment or going towards a loss of investment in terms of going into droughts or lack of consumers acceptance or perhaps lack of market. Okay, and also reaching out the segments and appropriate training and education backed up by consumer behavior. So I would start off with consumer behavior in a couple of slides from now, but keep in mind that's so important as we technocrats, as we academic researchers, as we talk to industry colleagues and teach our students what needs to be kept in mind, even though that is slightly outside our routine lecture or course material, but they're all interrelated in a very strong manner. So what's the fallout for COVID-19, 20 and 21 and beyond? So can we future-proof the food and beverage industry? Answer may be yes, no, maybe, but I think it's getting there to organize ourselves in terms of what sectors within the agri-food need some attention. So reconfiguring the fast food, reconfiguring the high corporate sector in terms of packaged foods and ultra-processed beverages, or in a roadside unorganized food sector that is pretty predominantly in many countries in the world. So keep in mind the scale, keep in mind the scope, and with which the knowledge that we have that can be disseminated and immediately adapted for certain needs and certain challenges. On the chart below is the food and beverage subsectors in commercial capital of Canada, which is Toronto, which is showing a breakdown information on the overall GDP. So bakeries and tortilla manufacturing accounts to 35%, followed by close to 20% of other food manufacturing. When I say manufacturing of food, it's all about ingredients, okay? Ingredients and the capacity to handle the quality improvements, the capacity to please the consumer demand, and also the small and medium scale industries, how they would like us to design their foods, add ingredients in a way that it improves either health or environment or just nutritional benefits, for example. So what we're seeing here is post-harvest challenges in terms of processing, all the way from traditional processing, dehulling of grain, lentils, pulses, oil seeds, cereal crops, splitting of dal, for example. Can we know how soaking and germination can change the entire gamut of protein uptake, bioavailability? Is there any gentle thermal processing such as roasting that you can come up with a hybrid technology? I'm sure that you have been speaking about technologies, but we need to look at gentle processing, the harsh, less harshful manner, okay, minimal process, fermentation, to just name a few, okay? The processing conditions vary the chemistry and the makeup of any material, particularly the agri-food crops, transient nature in their properties. Tomato ketchup, while in viscometer, how it behaves when it's spindling in a cylindrical measuring cup. When you're about to measure the absolute viscosity, properties change even during measurement. Forget about when it's storage. So transient quality of these characteristic properties, very hard to control, but you can predict, you can estimate, you can do some modeling, and perhaps have a threshold when the results of measurement come, so that you will have a meaningful approach for analysis of your data. All right, so and then we're moving on to huge biodiversity in terms of rheology. We know that a sensory panel that includes color, aroma, physical touch, and texture, functional properties such as foaming, emulsion, water and oil absorption capacities, rehydration ratios, and viscosity, to name a few. And also the method of preparations, from culinary practices all the way to multi-million-dollar burger giants in California, where beyond the burgers and beyond the proteins, they are the number one in terms of fast foods. But the throughput is what I'm trying to address here in terms of particular sensory, texture, and taste. It also to account for ethics and consumers' preferences as well. So the smart way of sustainability, we need to have some strategy. Is there government policy in place? Is there any other sector other than primary agriculture? Why not fisheries? What's happening with marine aquaculture? What is happening with silviculture, vermiculture, hydroponics? Is there any relationship with food processing unit operations and all these allied to account for UN sustainability goals, even for poverty reduction or health improvements or environmental benefits? We need to be smart, okay, in terms of sustainability aspects of an enterprise, and investments are happening and falling into that line where there is interconnectedness and smart adaptation of technologies. So what's trending in agri-food sector? COVID, post-COVID, particularly the alternative proteins. Okay, there is a paradigm shift. I'm talking from a North American, perhaps some Australia and European collaborations that I'm doing, tells me that India is also very rich in terms of consumer protection, consumer preferences, and very, very rich in feeding the world in terms of proteins. But there is also a necessity for self-sufficiency versus how much of a quality improvements you can achieve for meeting its own needs. Okay, there's always a demand supply curve you need to trade off, but overall, globally speaking, the disruption is happening in this alternative protein space. A source we can debate, so I'm not debating plant versus meat versus algae versus other lab derived protein, but in general, for population stress on energy, nutritional, and food security, these are some of the disruptions happening as we speak. What's happening in the e-commerce, electronic chain, and artificial intelligence and Internet of Things? It's not just computer engineers and scientists that need to worry about it. We as food professionals, students in food processing and related sectors need to have some connection and some capability in understanding what are these digital platforms all about. And food technology, entrepreneurship plus technology is, I name it as tech proship, that connects research components, is something that is also necessary for current educational patterns in IITs and leading United States universities that I do some consulting work. I do come across startups in University of California, startup companies right in the middle of your bachelor's degree, 4th year, and master's degree. During some time, that time, these things are dealt with, not after 20 years after your graduation. Okay, so there is India's technology focus in terms of young minds, talented individuals. We need to culture and nurture these attributes right from the beginning. Oh, what are the big picture strategies? Okay, food wastage. No need to stress on that, but food waste absolutely critical. That's not only the waste we are talking about, associated harmful effects for health, deteriorations that imbalances the economy, and all the intelligence that we got, the mega trends to monitor such green space, approaches to protection of environment in light of climate change. COVID compounds the complexities. Okay, so there's always regulatory standards, policies, and I'll only touch consumers part in this presentation. Perhaps I'll be happy to talk a little more if anybody is interested in any of the aspects of this presentation beyond this hour. So channeling in terms of market segment, I will not go again into details. The main branches, primary inputs, fertilizers included. We need fertilizers, right? We need seeds, we need land, we need water, equipment, machinery, and we produce and process. Okay, the centerpiece is all about processing, adding value too. And then the distribution network, marketing, modes of transportation, storage, and perhaps handling. Engineers like closed loop approach, like feedback control system, where we account for every simple and complex entity that comes into a system and that leaves the system. Okay, like a mass balance. What comes in should leave the system, and you need to account for that. And a closed loop model is a perfect example when you aggregate, when you collect, when you do life cycle assessment of crops, food, perishables, and then all the way to distribution network. They have to be connected in a way that it accounts for some percentage of the entire pie. So example here is on-farm enterprise versus downstream enterprises. So you are seeing companies that invest in land and directly manage farms. For example, the McCains, all these potato contract farmers in some Gujarat states, I know, near Maharashtra border. Somebody comes and buys the land, and you grow a particular potato exclusively dedicated for French fry market for fast food chain. That's something that's lucrative, but we need to look at various models and various geographies. If we are in Africa, what's the model? If we are in Canada, is that workable? If that's in New Zealand or in other Asian countries, how does it play? So downstream is always a profit-oriented strategy in terms of wholesalers, retailers, supermarkets, and transportation companies. So we'll talk about the challenges of COVID-19 in a minute, about supply and demand and logistics and so on. These are important to have a closed loop. Do not leave any open loops, because then you need to address those wherever that opens up, and you will have to invest in people, invest in money, and perhaps ecosystem damage is already happening in that process. Speaking of smartness, again, the governance, the intelligence, the connectivity, the 5G, what we speak, is there enough in the rural sector? It's always a debating question. Real-time virtualization. Can we monitor moisture content in 15 silos in a grain storage bins? Perhaps in advanced and developed countries where agriculture is predominant, like Kansas City in United States, Iowa, and Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Alberta, and Melbourne or Queensland in Australia, and in some advanced states and cities in India, that is already on the market. In terms of scale, it's not replicable throughout the region, but there are classic examples of having all these smart codes that I have listed here: sensors, investments, applications, robust technology, and the right team. Okay, leadership governance is a paramount in terms of successful digitization. So in terms of lentils, Canada and India share commonality, particularly Saskatchewan. We produce and export 75% of Canada's export that comes from pulses and lentils, particularly chickpeas, green lentil, and yellow peas, green peas. Okay, so that's something that worth about $4 billion US. The average of Canadian lentil statistics is even on the increasing as as data shows is 5 years old, but I think there's an updated version that economy is on the rise because of the paradigm shift in the plant protein. There is no other way. That's one. Is there a benefit to environment? Is there a nitrogen fixing bacteria that is working into the soil ecosystem? Improvements in soil health? Is there any reduction in greenhouse gases? Can you account for carbon sequestration? So there is more than what we study in classes, more than what we talk about in conferences, more than what we study in social media, but something that always goes challenging when they're interrelated and very closely connected. That's why I always say complete utilization is something you need to look at in terms of post-harvest, preservation, all the way to end users acceptance, and circular economy goes into the picture. How can we do that? R&D is not enough. 2 more Ds have been added in the federal funding agencies in Canada and worldwide in some of the competitive funding agencies for conducting R&D, demonstration and delivery. Okay, those are important segments that are added in the last couple of years in terms of developing new technologies, tools. When you build a subsystem, prototypes, your design of experiments, is there a failure threshold? And how do you test and validate? And how do you further develop the changes and revise the continuous improvement methods? Is Lean Sigma the best method? Okay, what are the quality controls? And food safety is something that itself is a debate that can be talked about for days and days. In light of COVID situation, it's even more important, and basic training, best management practices are never to be discounted. And I just wanted to remind you and refresh you about the first preference consumers are looking for. We are all consumers too. So let's move on to a little bit of academic flavor, shifting gears here, training, education, and enterprise. Okay. Please remind me about my time limit if I'm running too old, too over the board. What is career development model tells you in terms of creating your future, knowing your value, exploring your options, and planning your actions. Each of them have quite a career pro Canada model that I'll be happy to talk for students, particularly how do we define these segments? Okay, just to keep an eye on, is there a career development model for food processing young entrepreneurs? Yes, of course. Okay. And one thing I would like to point out is industry trends in exploring options. For planning, I think we need to prioritize the tasks. For creating the value, social, of course, online networking is still a very good avenue. And knowing your value, there is no limit. I think value stand on its own. Leadership development for young students, for professors, for government employees, in any discipline. I think there is a clear mark in terms of internal and external focus. Who are our audience? NIT Rourkela stands out in certain areas and academic excellence, and that's very specific to that institute, correct? So we also have to look at beyond. Is there any community level training? Is there any NGOs that are participating? Does your technology reach the utmost grassroots level application in terms of saving lives, improving malnutrition, providing shelter, or distributing foods in the crisis, floods, fires, climates, natural calamities? So there are beyond COVID, right? Canada's food guide, that's new, that's not the best in the world, I must say that, but they still focus on population to consume plenty of fresh fruits and vegetables. This is after 80 years of civilization that still going back to eat certain commodities that India has centuries of experience and wisdom from forefathers and previous generations. That is no different than what we are. Grandma's recipe grandmother's advice is still reinventing the wheel. Okay, so the pickles that were originally stored in mud earthware is still coming back to fruition in terms of ultra modern technology utilizing the rare earth elements because of storability and perhaps enhancement of flavor and taste and some rheology. So engineers need to pay a little bit philosophically also, and it's an art and science both, I can say, when you choose and when you make decisions in terms of whole food guide. It's a slide showing on some disciplines that are buzzing in terms of business and economics, and how do we make food safe better. Those programs are evolving right through Europe and other advancing countries as well. Sometimes we get huge donations from a corporate sector, example in Mahindra or Tata groups in India, right? There, everybody is venturing into food markets. I see in retail market here, how many imported packets, processed foods are launched every month. That's a good news, but we need to look at agenda. What's the packaging? What's the ultimate landfill effect? What are the nutrient levels? What's the preservatives? What are my strategies for further sustainability? Is it one-time deal or maybe we will sustain? So agenda where industry puts forward for training and education component is a must to understand. So in terms of post-harvest sector, what's happening with supply chain logistics? Just a few snapshots of geopolitical disturbances. I gathered this Sri Lanka declared food emergency as foreign exchange crisis worsened. This is during pandemic, and it's no different than any other parts. This is just Google results I got. Out of General Mills brings all hands on deck to manage unexpected labor constraints throughout the supply chain. Can you believe that British Columbia, the most famous horticultural valley that produces fruits and vegetables, were left in the field because there were no laborers to pick and no laborers to operate the machines for harvesting last season. What happened ultimately for the other consumers? Either the stock was not available, the supply didn't get proceeded, it remained in on the field or on the deck, and the only supply that got imported from elsewhere were 10 times higher the price. Supply chain is in crisis. How do we move forward? It's all held in the ports and the decks. We know there is a lot of transportation modules and there is diplomatic relations, but as a scientific curiosity, these are also disruptors in the whole modeling. And as Forbes magazine predicts, it will continue to happen in a little while from now. Qatar plans $200 million worth cell-cultured meat hub in partnership with Eat Just. I'm not a big fan of cultured meat in burgers. I would like a real soybean soaked and chickpeas that is curried and ground and then put in patties and then enjoy that. So that's a different personal choice, but the industry is moving in a very smart way where sustainability and sustenance of labors or market segments are always there. So that's also important to know as global crop rallies spurs farmers to scramble for fertilizer as inputs. For seed technology, for fertilizer, potash is a fertilizer that Saskatchewan is very proud of. We export 80% of world's potash, which is a natural fertilizer. And if there is no port or a ship or a transportation mechanism to China, India, or even Russia, that's it. It will be held up in ports. So having shifting from supply chain logistics, it's also hygiene, employee safety in food processing facilities that are also important, because if frontline workers are not there in hospitals, similar analogy to food processing, food will not be processed. I'll just go a little bit faster here because a lot of statistics to digest, but I'll throw a buzzwords here and there where the market is fragmented. Market growth, there is projection for growth and job recoveries and GDPs all together. A slide here also, it's a distribution of dairy versus animal food, bakeries, grain and oilseed milling, and fruit and vegetable and specialty crops. It's particularly, this is a Canadian context. Again, it's a Western Canadian distribution of food and beverage manufacturing. The energy and I'm talking about the dietary energy and the fiber content and the infusion of such nutrients in beverages is also increasing. Protocols, regulations, and ultimately the consumer is going to need to accept and consume, keep consuming it. So let's focus a little bit about behavior of consumers and what's trending. We have two domains, external and personal domains for a food system. When you talk about the entire ecosystem, from all the way to supply chain, food supply to consumer behavior, and on the right, you are seeing threats. That's increased levels of malnutrition, and also the goal, that is sustainable, healthy diets for all in terms of quality. So availability versus accessibility, prices, vendor and product properties, and the convenience and desirability. I'd like to focus on the last part, desirability. Okay, custom made, custom oriented, personalized food systems are on the horizon. Okay, that's very complex. We need drones to deliver pizza. Okay, sitting in a 4th floor or a 10th floor of an apartment, we need drones to deliver a chocolate bar at our footsteps. Whereas there is no water from the well that is drawn, even a 100 ml water is not coming out of the well for the farmer in some parts. So we expect that food to be delivered here. So there is a huge philosophical and social dilemma when it comes to system. When you leave the system, that means you are not closing the loop. We need to inclusive. Snapshot chart here is changed consumer purchasing habits last 5 to 10 years and next projected into next 5 years. It's the #1 segment as governments are increasing focus on food security with the diversified supply chains, decentralization of processing sites, increased investment in automation, and so on for small scale holders and the rest of the industry. A survey was conducted in one of the leading food processing plant in North America. A graph generally says, and it's true, universally true, about 42% said they're very concerned that their employer and businesses will suffer due to COVID-19, either employees or the clients and the network. Okay, this was in 2020 September chart. So it's mitigated, but again, it's on the back on the Omicron situation that we are in right now. Food service market in the United States, the key trend, market drivers are circulating in terms of certain demands. For example, allergy-free dining, okay? Celiac diseases, beet gluten, gluten-free diet, increasing number of new store openings in cannabis and hemp market, legalized in Canada and US. Market is projected to reach 1,000 billion by 21 in terms of new food service markets. In the name of protein, I think all kinds of businesses and stock markets are fluctuating, but we need to look at realistic pictures as well. Another chart talks about accessibility and availability, stability and sustainability. So I will not ask you to read everything there, but they're all kind of related to somebody's jobs or disruption in the midday meal program, for example. Is farmers organizations on Hadtal, meaning strike. We saw in Punjab and various sectors in India recently. So these are related to policies and various other governance throughout. So what we do in Canadian Food Processors Institute, there is a program called Temporary Foreign Workers because we are shortage of labor all the time. On the other hand, equipment rich. And when labors don't arrive, doesn't matter equipment, they can't run on its own, even if it's controlled by robots or drones. You need human beings to operate. So that's another classical shift in thinking in terms of automation. What's happening with hospitality sector? Future Foods global insights to all things food, hospitality, and entertainment industry enables us to share the trends that will influence the decision making for tomorrow's customers. Tomorrow's customers is a heavyweight category here. So the chart in the back talks about live local, love local, meaning all the imports from other than their own are not encouraged. Live local, love local may not sustain beyond, but for small communities, self-sufficient communities, it's a good model, like a cooperative or a co-op, okay? And of course, as technology trends, we need to connect the dots. And just I wanted to expose you on the hospitality sector because of the frenziness, the pleasure pursuits, and the sales strategy. I just wanted to point out about personal food choices and negotiations around healthcare and cost and convenience. Okay, consumption for both obtaining food and preparing food. Okay, and also the micro context. All account to COVID situation, in particularly where there are interruptions in the supply chain. For example, if a mill is closed and the grain is sitting in the bin, let's say wheat or durum or cereal crops, the flour needed to make rotis and chapatis or pasta, you cannot consume the wheat directly. There is a unit operation called milling, and that industry need to be revitalized to get the food ready. So top 5 trends for the agri-food industry: health, convenience and technology, alternative proteins, reducing waste and sustainability, new flavors and experiences. These are something new. Consumers will seek foreign flavors, unfortunately, and experiences that are always of reduced travel restrictions. So the world cuisine need to be in front of us. That's European Union slogan for trending agri-food industry sector. So next couple minutes, if I am still allowed to speak, Mr. Chair, I can quickly wrap up my R&D and innovation trends.
Yes, sir, you can.
Thank you, madam. Processing of pulses and lentils, we are developing a platform for innovation, opportunities for NIT Rourkela and your own network to collaborate. Simple, we are looking at roasting and extrusion technology, particularly for integration and linkage to consumer behavior and nutritional security. I'll be open for this particular area, and we will have some resources as Protein Industries Canada is developing as a new industry in Canada, and they're looking for such student faculty collaborations and exchanges. So just to throw some idea on that. Anti-nutritional components, big thing for lentils, pulses. Is glycemic index important? Absolutely. Is diabetes numbers going up? Absolutely, both in Western Canadian context as well as in Indian context. Is essential amino acids enough? Is there a need for blended proteins? I'm not saying starches are not discussed, but trending is protein. But we need to look at reduction, utilization of starch and other elements for industrial uses. Is flavor important? That means roasting. So mixing and roasting generates about 1,000 aromatic compounds when coffee bean is roasted. We know that food chemistry tells us so much important the characteristics of the ingredients that gets converted post that. So residence time, temperature, pressure, humidity, pH, all the physical, chemical, biological characteristics, do not underestimate those, regardless of the scale, regardless of the consumers. And our research always focuses on certain things that affect these variables. Who doesn't like the best presented food and where the ingredients are coming? Traceability. Is there a blockchain concept developed? All these are trending. And consumers always grow in their wish list, right? What do you want? I need this, this, this. But we need to be keeping up with the pace and also see the realistic view of what we are doing in terms of generating wealth, generating health, or maintaining the goals that are set by our local policymakers. Some of the questions: can we improve the nutrition or aroma profiles of certain beans? Can you optimize a drying parameter of combined technology? I'm sure that you guys are experts in your department and in your school. So let's talk about some of the organoleptic properties, sensory characteristics. Can we investigate the changes in the anti-nutritional compounds? People are always asking these questions, so I continue to do so. Color becomes a big thing for certain customers, industry. Is starch digestibility important for protein extrudates? Perhaps yes. I'll just skip through this. Yes, in terms of germination standardization methods, I think it's still evolving, but it's a 100-year-old concept. Soaking grain in water, allow that to sprout, then consume it. Fantastic analogy, but can we think of an industrial scale? Can we talk about bioaccessibility? Is there a nutrition and enrichment? Can we look at adding more protein to the existing subset of the mix? So many optimization pathways are possible. Couple of my grad students are working now on these projects, which is funded by Ministry of Agriculture within Saskatchewan and federal ministries with the Tri-Council funding, and that's growing trend. So some of the classical mechanical engineers or process engineers in chemical engineering may not understand the grain properties of food. However, food processing combines disciplines that we need to appreciate the interconnectedness, and that's how the market is looking for highly skilled laborers, I mean professionals. Even though my expertise is on microwave and electromagnetic interactions, I see both Dr. Pradhan and Dr. Mishra, who were in Saskatchewan a couple of years ago, they are also experts now, and your colleagues are working on these processes. It is still gaining traction, but only thing is we need to optimize and carefully understand the biophysics part of it. And can we scale it up? Can we economize the unit operations? Can we do a repeatability of quality improvements? And can every consumer be reached out? Customers, consumers are all important. Some of the works happening in my own lab is continuing with vacuum microwave technology. Can we apply to mangoes, gooseberries? Absolutely, yes. So there is nutraceuticals, functional foods, sector wellness foods, health benefits. I'm sure that both Mishra and Pradhan will appreciate this equipment that we have been still using. They're very versatile for infrared combined with microwave technologies for Maillard reaction controls, and nowadays into surface pasteurization and improvements for ingredients for protein making. Whole grain utilization for resistant starch is of course a valuable research piece to understand, and we are looking at extrusion and digestibility of certain crop varieties and sharing that knowledge to industry. RS is a big thing for food science, food technologists and ag engineers, and of course food process engineers as well. A couple of years ago, this paper was received quite a bit of attention on starch digestibility studies on 3 barley varieties. We grow a lot of pulses, so that's why there is push for lentils, pulses, cereals, oil seeds, canola, #1 crop in Canada. And so what happens when you do blended protein mix formulation? So we need to study various characteristics that affect those. I'll be happy to share all these publications. I did not intend you to read them, just to look at journals, and international citations on these are very high, and we have that knowledge to take it further. Antioxidant activities in fresh fruits and vegetables. So how do we reduce wastage? There are some lot of good things, phenolics. We can extract those. So this is one of the recent publication by my PhD student on standardization of chickpea broth that is naturally available when you are cooking in a pressure cooker. What the chole goes out, but what happens to the liquid, the emulsion? Using that as a method to produce aquafaba, which is an industrial product, and the application is for all the egg and strict vegetarians, this can act as a replacement for egg proteins, okay, or mayonnaise for spreads. And this is picking up traction, particularly in light of its economic advantage and also simplicity in making. But we need more industrial scale approach so that it can be mass produced. So that work is picking very fast, and I'll be happy to share some of those if you are interested. Another work, allied sector, it's not just one food. We need to be a little broad-minded. Characteristics of biomass, co-pelletization, collaborations with Dr. Dalai's group in my department has fetched a lot of attention, and collaborative opportunities for biomass utilization for cleaner energy and waste handling. Okay, so that calls about circular economy. Mehdi is looking at, one of my PhD students is currently looking at thermal imaging to study variation, spatial variation in temperature of lentil seeds while it's still processed in a microwave or a IR chamber. So let's build a community in agri-food sector. So how can we do that? Flexibility in the business model or training model. Can you allow a mechanical engineering student to learn rheology of food? You should allow that. You guys have to lobby the governance structure and allow a food science student take a capstone project in engineering, and perhaps expect less equations from that person, but you can maybe gauge more chemistry out of it. So that's where the shift should happen. And the capacity development. We need to look at raw materials, logistics, service providers. Always look for win-win controls, comprehensive quality control. Of course, manage the high cost of failure. Expect the failure, but can we take risks and manage? How can food processors deliver personalization to the masses? Of course, the expectation growth is on the steep. It's always growing. There are emotions attached to it, preferences, health aspects, thinking outside the app, staying ahead of the curve, and securing the scale. Okay. Very few ideas that I wanted to bullet is improved design in unit operations. There are some improvements. Fortification. I saw IIT Kharagpur work with Dr. H.N. Mishra's on rice food fortification study gaining traction, robotics, harvesting, AI and fuzzy logics, lean methodology and smart process control. Of course, I always advocate closed loop model for sustainability and minimal processing. COVID-19 and food safety question sheet. There is always a scope, and this is in North Carolina State University's extension brochure. What are the risks of takeout or drive-through food? What are the risks of food delivered to home? Can I get COVID-19 from touching food or packaging exposed to corona? Now it's Omicron. We don't know the answers exactly, but the public health takes over and food processors are in between, right? So food for health is practiced in some countries. Food for health is not at all talked in some countries. So an apple a day keeps a doctor away. It's still true in my mind. So what are my big trends in 2021? Interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary collaboration, willingness, cooperation, and spirit is absolutely essential. That's called inclusivity. Partnership development activities are vital. Even at small scale in classroom project with 2 people working, getting some idea, and then helped by mentorship. It starts from there and must be sustained. Be ready to be laid off in a job or a marketplace, but continue the growth approach where it boosts your complementary skills and synergies with what the world needs. So 5 E's: economy, environment, efficiency, engineering, and entrepreneurship. I added a bio because I'm biased towards bio. 4 S's: be simple, keep it smart, do not forget sustainability aspects, and do not forget where we belong to society as a whole. And world's position on agri-food policies need to be understood better, and we can contribute to those as well quite actively. Yes, we can go over the post-COVID. There is no doubt about it. We can contribute and we must do it. I'll close here by just sharing a few front yard trees in this beautiful autumn season we had a couple of months ago. Beautiful autumn, and we are in winter. I know that, and you know that. Saskatoon is one of the best cities in summer months. Those who have been here, for sure, they would have crossed these bridges. And I appreciate your opportunity for me to be talking to you this morning. And thank you all for your patience. And I'll welcome any comments or questions. And thanks again for the organizers at NIT Rourkela. Welcome to Saskatoon.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your enlightening presentation. I hope it was very much useful for our participants, especially the research papers which you have showed is very much interesting for us. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Participants, if there is any questions regarding the lecture, you can interact with our speaker directly. If you have any doubts, please raise your hand. Abhishek.
Hello.
Yeah, please introduce yourself and you can ask the questions.
Hello.
Yeah, please go ahead.
First of all, the greetings of the day. And to my sir, a very enthusiastic, dynamic person, exclusively dedicated professor, entrepreneur in field of agri-food, food processing, bioprocessing sector, my heartfelt gratitude to you. And I'm privileged to listen my both supervisors, sir. I'm very much glad to listen to you. So one of my preliminary question is that India needs self-sufficiency, since you pointed out. What may be the recent salient startup piece that is handling the COVID present scenario in current time?
Can you please repeat the last part of your question? I missed it.
And as you point out, that India needs self-sufficiency. What may be in your vision, what is the present salient startup piece which is handling the COVID present scenario with the food sector?
In terms of startups, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good question. Oh, that's quite complex, but the digital applications to agriculture, the precision agriculture, the post-processing aspects in light of COVID situation, the couple startups that are responsible directly are in the health-based foods, health beneficial based claims. I am sure that FSSAI is looking carefully into it, and I wouldn't discount even an app, a simple app development that can monitor the moisture content of a bin grain in a storage bin that helps farmer or user to take it from the bin to further to the milling process. So who says this? And you cannot go in and walk or have mobility during COVID times, but your digital platform can tell you the features, the patterns, and the startups are growing like crazy. I know a couple of them. but I'm not directly involved. I've read through the magazines and news media that producer groups in avoidance with middlemen and mandis or yards where there is direct sales happening from the farmer to the consumer. This is trending, and it's a labeling and tagging towards the health and nutritional claims. I don't know the exact answer for your question, but I try to respond. So.
Thank you, sir. I think you answered it well. There is another question from one of our participants. Manish, yeah, you can unmute yourself.
Good morning, sir. I'm Manish
Yes.
Kampe, working in
Hi.
Agriculture Department, Maharashtra State. Actually, our trend is just changing. That is, farmers, new farmers, some agriculture graduates are there. They are willing to have some innovative nature. Interested in exports. Actually, in Canada or in America, which states that is some interaction must be there to have to know the tests there, means which actually they want to know. That is some farmers they are trending towards organic food also. So but here it is we are getting less remuneration. But if some interactions with you or like persons like you, some interactions will be there, then it will be profitable for them. That is, we want to know the tastes or some food which can be there from India.
So that's a good question. I think the palettes are changing. I think when I talk to my folks in India, they always talk about pizza and burgers. But when I talk to my colleagues here locally, they always talk about chicken curries and basmati rice. There is a global shift in the palate. Palate means taste and sensory qualities that geographically now there are no barriers. People are aspiring and desiring for non-local foods, meaning something foreign. So in the business sense, absolutely there is appetite for organic, all the rich traditional foods that are grown in India, that also includes simple turmeric, for example, haldi, and flavored with curries and spices. They are, even today, that's #1 trend. But how do you market and how do you sell? There is a business proposition, and there is always a demand, and there is also a consumption increase because of its oriental nature and also alternate option. So in terms of particular state or clients or names of the companies, we can maybe communicate offline and by other contacts, and we can get discussion going on that.
Thank you, sir. There is another question from our participant. Charul.
Yes, good morning.
Are you there?
Sir. Hello.
Yeah, please introduce.
Hi.
Yeah. Good morning, sir. So my question is, in one of your research paper, you have mentioned aquafaba. What is that, sir? I want to know. Please explain.
Aquafaba is the name of a product that we developed. It's from the broth or the, if you have a canned chickpeas, not very popular in India, but if you pressure cook chickpeas, what liquid that's left over, and when you standardize that liquid that's left over to a little more recipe, that becomes aquafaba in simple words. So there is value for that, and there is a potential for plasticizing effect for replacement of eggs directly, because there is nutritional aspect to it, and we can spray dry, we can microwave dry, different aspects to it. But even as an emulsifier or a mayonnaise type of characteristics for food emulsions, we are proposing that for industry right now. So aquafaba is simply a byproduct of a chickpeas processing or a cooking step that is further recovered and reduce the wastage.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
By this, our question and answer section is over.
Thank you.
Mishra sir, Professor Mishra sir, if you want to add something, please.
Yeah, actually, I'm in another meeting. So thank you, sir, for accepting our invitation. Let me tell all the audience that Professor Mehta was my supervisor and I was his first PhD student.
That's correct.
And Professor Pradhan was a visiting student when I was doing my PhD with Professor Mehta only. So thank you,
It has
sir.
been so nice to see you and fantastic students. And we recently received one of your undergraduates who started masters in our department. So it's a circular economy or circular training across the world. So very good to see you. And we'll keep continuing. Is Dr. Sarkar in the call?
With an accuracy of around 768 by 768.
Professor Sarkar is another meeting, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
He is in
say
another
hello to
meeting.
all
I
of
think.
you. I have visited NIT Rourkela twice when Dr. Subodhi was there. I'm sure that he is now in IIT Goa, I believe.
IIT Goa.
Correct. And once when Dr. Sabyasachi Mishra's student was graduating, was it Payal who did masters or BTech?
Baby. It was
Ah.
babies. Yeah.
Right, in Kolkata, right? So.
Yeah.
All right, I'll not take much of your time. Pleasure to have taken part, and I know you guys have a fantastic conclusion day today. And I really miss those in-person hospitality and smiles, but nevertheless, we will be happy to talk to you in person one of these days.
Thank you, sir.
sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So I'll take leave of you, and good luck, students and faculties. Feel free to get the contact info, and we can. I'll try to respond to the best of the available time I got. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah. Bye.
There is another small information for the participants. There is a small change in our program schedule because of some official work. Dr. Vishwakarma is not joining with us now. Instead of his presentation on cold storage and real-time monitoring system for transportation of perishable product, Professor Rachna from NIT Rourkela will give a presentation on superheated steam drying for perishable products. Avipriya, please introduce the speaker.
Hello. Yes, Avipriya, we can hear you now.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Uh, Good morning, ma'am. Next, I call upon Dr. Rachna Sarawat, who is an assistant professor in Department of Food Process Engineering, National Institute of Technology, Rourkela. He has done MTech in Food Engineering and Technology from St. Langual Institute of Engineering and Technology, Punjab, and PhD in Food Engineering from National Institute of Food Technology, Internship and Management, NIPTEM, Haryana. Extraction of biopigment, processing of fruits and vegetables, drying, cereal processing, value addition, and utilization of byproducts are included to her research interest. She has published more than 17 research articles so far in international journals, 13 book chapters, and 2 books. She has she has been awarded with Seligman EPB travel grant for attending 9th Asia Pacific Drying Conference ADC 2017. Also, she has been a visiting research scholar at King Mangkut's University of Thonburi, Thailand. Thank you, ma'am, for being here. I would like to request you to deliver your lecture about superheated steam drying for food security. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Abipriya, for the introduction. Let me share my screen. Just convey me once you can see the screen. Are you able to see the screen?
Yes, ma'am, your slides are visible.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Very good morning to everyone, senior people, colleagues, and participants. So the today's topic, talk of the topic is superheated steam drying for food security. Basically, in this lecture, I'll try to relate the food security, how it is important in this scenario, and with the drying technology, how with the drying we can secure food. Okay, and starting with the conventional drying, later on in the second half, I'll be talking about the superheated steam drying, what it is importance, why it is getting more attention nowadays. So the content of the presentation would be about the background related to the food security, why we need to go for the preservation, what are the different method of the preservation, and then what is drying, and in actual term, what is thermal drying, why we refer it as a thermal drying, why we have to go for drying process, what are the different losses happening at different stage, and how can these losses can be minimized using the drying technology, and how can we secure food using this drying technology. Then what is this superheated steam drying? What is its role in quality retention of different food products, which could be a fruits, vegetable, or different kind of the product.
Excuse
And
me,
then,
ma'am.
yes, sir.
Sorry to interrupt. Can
Yes,
you
sir.
make it to slideshow? And
It's in mine is slideshow, sir.
it's not showing us a slideshow.
Okay, but in mine it is showing slideshow. You can see here. Just a second, sir. Maybe there is a sometime when we open through the Zoom meeting or something, the issue occurs. Just let me try to share again. Um, okay, just.
Yes, ma'am. Now it is clear.
Okay, sorry for the interruption. So then we'll be talking about the energy consumption in the different drying processes. Then why it is important to select different dryer, which type of the dryer you want to work upon with different type of the commodities, followed by the concluding remarks. Okay, you see there is a continuous rise in the population. Now the population is around 7.2 billion and is projected to increase by 12.5 billion by 2100. Okay, so you see at a faster rate, the population is increasing. Then behavioral changes, consumption changes of the humans are happening, like shift of the population from the rural to the urban areas. So all these changes are happening. There's a change in the more of the, since people are moving to the urban areas, they are more in need of the jobs and prospects, and then they have less time to focus on the food application or the food processing or for their own consumption. So they restrict their diet to more of the packaged food with more of the concentrated energy, but not of the much nutritional aspect. And in that scenario, their lands are limited, and we are agriculture also land is just shrinking more. We are basically going toward the urbanization and more of the building of the houses. There is a change in the climate. So many these changes are happening. And these changes, they have created an alarming situation, basically for the policymaker regarding the food security. The problems in political instability, spike in food prices, uneven distribution of the food, and these unpredictable changes that has to be looked upon to make our food system resilient to these shocks. That's why it is very, very necessary to look for the food security aspects. Now, how through the preservation we can secure the food? You know, food is a very perishable commodities, not only because of the moisture, because of the presence of the nutrients also. There are several physical, chemical, and biological changes that happens inside the food. These changes basically are responsible for the deterioration of the food, and several changes and can lead to the degradation of the component. So we need to basically prevent these physical or these chemical or biological changes to make the food self-stable for a longer duration of the time, make it available throughout the country and with more retention or similar to the fresh produce. Okay, that's why we need to preserve the food. There are several preservation methods that are basically used, like physical method, chemical method, biological method, that are basically used for preservation. Like very commonly you see at a home level itself. For the refrigeration, what we do in the refrigeration is we try to remove the heat of the product. So we are lowering down the temperature. So refrigeration or freezing is one of the physical mechanism to preserve the food. Addition of heat by adding, like in canned product. Right now you can see in the market lot of canned product are available, which could be your vegetables also, like your green vegetable, which are difficult to prepare at home on routine basis. They are just coming into the canned product. You have to just take it, heat it up and consume them. Then by removal of the moisture that we are going to talk about, like in case of your mango, then your vegetables, potato, they are having good amount of the moisture, more than 70%, although it varies. Some have 90, some have 80, depending upon product to product. In this method, basically we reduce the moisture, or in terms basically reducing the available water for the microorganism, that is reducing the water activity of the sample, so that the microbes will not be able to thrive on your sample or your food commodities, and then extending the shelf life for maybe a year, for the 6 months, which depends later on the packaging material used. There are several chemical methods also, like by addition of the salt, like we do in case of the pickling, or in case of some of the canned vegetables. Addition of the sugar, like in case your jam, preserves, jellies. Basically we are increasing the amount of the sugar in order to make it last longer for a longer duration of the time. Okay, addition of some of the recommended or preserved by the use of the preservatives so that they can extend the shelf life and lower the microbial count. Fermentation, and nowadays these non-thermal technologies like your high pressure processing, pulse electric field, these are getting a lot more attention because they provide the food commodities that are very much similar to the fresh produce, as consumers are becoming very aware and they want the product or in the market that is similar to the fresh product. So these are the different ways through which we can produce or we can preserve the basically food for a longer duration. This drying, it has been practiced as a preservation method from very long previous, very long time. Okay, and so what does drying is? You can simply say drying is basically referred to as removal of the water to an equilibrium moisture content at a certain condition of temperature and humidity. Okay, whereas or technically you can say, if you want to say it as a thermal drying, means you are using heat basically to remove the moisture content, and due to vapor pressure difference on application of heat is known as thermal drying. Why we need to go for thermal drying? Because let's say you are having a produce into the farm and the field. So from the farm to coming toward the consumer table there, and it is perishable, have high amount of the moisture, so many losses or the degradation of the occur. So in order to make it available throughout the country, let's say we have a particular mango in certain areas, whereas in Kashmir we do not have a grow this mango. To make it available to that part of the country or to other part of the world, to make them available, we need to basically dry the product so that it can be consumed throughout the country or maybe throughout the world. Okay, and then we want to reduce the contamination because of the microbes or because of the physical or any chemical changes. Okay, then in some of the times, like if we talk particularly about the innovative techniques for the drying technology, we want to have the produce to have a best quality in terms of the nutrient retention, in terms of the bioactive components. That's the another reason. Another reason for drying is like some products are grown at a certain season of the year. They are not available throughout. To make them available throughout the season, we need to go for preservation, which could be your drying method. So you see, there are different stages. There are the different losses are happening. That's why we need to look for the losses happening at this stage and how we can minimize these losses by processing using the sustainable technologies. Like we can dry different seeds and grain, we can dry different fruits and vegetables, we can dry different meat and marine product. Now drying of insects are becoming very popular as they are considered very good source of the protein. Now there are several waste being generated from the agriculture also and from the industries also. If we can dry this produce and can use as a source of the manure, you can use as a source of fuel, or we can use this dried material for producing solvents, chemical, or can use as a fermentation media, because this agricultural produce has a good source of the carbon, nitrogen, which is very much required during the fermentation process and would be a natural sources rather than the using some of the synthetic sources. So, and these dry produce means these wastage after drying can be used as meal to the animals or to the as a good source of the meal to these animals and have an effective utilization. That's how with the drying technology we can reduce these losses and can preserve the food commodities as well as the waste which is being generated, can sustainably utilize these sources. Now, you see in case of these commonly available product nearby your area or surrounding, like your corn, then your peas, and then your these peanuts, they are easily infected by the fungus, and that the growth of the mycotoxins occur, which are very, very harmful for the health of human. Okay, drying is very effective in reducing these changes. Now we have to look which drying technology is effective in reducing up to which kind of the content. Safety is one thing. We can reduce these microbial count with several different technologies, but how it is affecting to the quality has to be also looked upon. So there are several drying technology like your sun drying, tray drying. These are very conventional drying technologies and has been used from the different kind of the perspective because of the availability of technologies and freely available of the air as a drying medium is being used. Some of the technologies which is very quite effective in retaining the quality are like vacuum drying, freeze drying, and they are being used for by retain as they retain the quality of the produce to a larger extent. Some of the technology like superheated steam drying, they are also getting attention. It can be done at atmospheric pressure or at high pressure or at lower pressure also, depending upon the product that has to be dried. Spray drying, you all would have seen the milk powder at home. This milk powder is basically generally spray dried or drum dried through the atomization process. And you imagine how through the drying we are reducing the bulk volume of a product, help in reducing the transportation cost. Imagine transporting in tons of the milk or liquid milk, or instead transporting milk powder only in kgs, because 90% of the moisture is present into the milk. If we evaporate that and left with the dry matter into this one, then we'll save a lot of the space during the transportation as well as the cost. Okay, then you have fluidized bed drying. Lot of the changes or innovations are happening into the fluidized bed drying, drum drying, and microwave drying. There are the several drying technologies. Sun drying can be done using mat drying or pavement drying, like in the open space or by hanging them, but have several disadvantages associated with it, like long drying time. Then you have to wait for 2-3 days to dry this produce to get dried, and in the night time when the temperature is less, so chances of mycotoxin growth is more at that time. Then you have to be very careful. You have to monitor it during the hours. Then sunshine availability is also very important. It is not available throughout the season also or throughout the year also, and it varies from place to place also. So these are some of the disadvantages associated, like in the pictures also you can see, like there the contamination happening because of the pollution also, from the insects also. You require a lot of manpower also basically to control these one. Although few of these can be overcome by, if we look at some of the tips like continuous monitoring, covering them in the night time, or some of the help can be done. Then among the conventional method is the air drying. The simplest method, which involves like a dryer is there, a chamber is there, drying chamber, and then trays are there. Over the trays, you spread your material and then use this air, and by heater, you heat the air, and this heated air has ability to take the moisture from the sample as it heat the product. And due to heat, the moisture present into the sample, it transported from the inside of the material to the surface and further removal from the drying chamber to the outside. Okay, so this is the simple phenomena how air drying happens. Okay, so although it is very simple mode of the drying and a simple process, but if your product is having some of the compounds that are not good to emit out into the environment, can cause environmental pollution, or some are like non-uniform drying, specifically in case of food product has been seen. So these are some of the disadvantages associated with this drying. Vacuum drying is more effective in terms of the nutrient retention, as you lower the drying can be done at a lower temperature, as because of the lowering down the vacuum you are, and in this vacuum drying you are eliminating most of the oxygen, so you are creating an oxygen and free environment. And in case of the food, this oxygen is basically responsible for oxidation and browning reaction, which basically increase the redness of the sample, and which is not desirable at a consumer end. You consider a white onion, and if you are drying, and after drying you are obtaining a red color kind of the onion because of these reaction, browning reaction, no one in the market would like to consume that product. So that's why where we have to look for the technologies which help in providing better color and quality aspects also. So what happens is we connect a vacuum pump to the drying chamber, which is effectively able to reduce the oxygen from the chamber, and depending upon the pressure that we have to use. So you can see in the sample over here, there are a different sample. VD refers to the vacuum drying, HAD refers to the hot air drying. First one is the mushroom, oyster mushroom. You see the difference between vacuum drying and hot air drying, and then red onions, white onion, and beans. The color difference is quite visible in two different drying technology. It is quite brighter in case of the vacuum drying technologies. Freeze drying is the very good drying technology in terms of the quality retention. And based upon the phenomena of the sublimation, the only problem with the freeze drying is that it is very high energy consuming process. That's why it is difficult to adopt at a larger scale this technology, and more commonly used in case of the developed countries for the high value end product, or in case of the pharmaceutical companies. Now through this diagram, phase diagram of water, we can even show all these three drying technologies. How these drying technologies can be shown in this one, like simply, you see this is the triple point of the water, okay, and this is around your temperature of the product, 25 or 30 initially when you keep into the drying chamber. Okay, so what happens if you increase the temperature? Like you can see, if you increase the temperature, the conversion of the moisture that is present in your sample occur into the vapor form. So conversion of this moisture liquid into the vapor form occur, and this is how we can show it as a hot air drying, and it always occur above the triple point of the water. Now what happened in vacuum drying also? This also occur above the triple point of the water, but in vacuum drying, this is your temperature, slide the temperature also and reduce the pressure also. We are reducing the pressure also. So what happen if you use these both, in little increase in temperature and reducing the pressure also, you can convert the moisture present into your sample into the vapor form, but at a lower temperature as compared to the hot air drying. We all know increase in temperature will lead to the more degradation of the component. Okay, although it is dependent upon time also, how much time we are giving for the product is taking. What happened in case of the freeze drying? First, we have the sample. Let's say you are having mango. You will freeze your mango sample. Okay, so you are basically lowering the temperature. Okay, once your moisture has been solidified by the freezing process, then you will reduce the pressure. So once you are reducing the pressure and reducing the temperature, basically this moisture conversion occur from the solid phase to the vapor phase without passing through the liquid phase. So this is how freeze drying occur. That's why freeze drying always occur below the triple point of the water. Like you are lowering down the temperature, then you are lowering down the pressure. Either you can completely lower down the pressure, or slightly here you can increase the temperature. So that's what we say as a secondary drying in case of the freeze drying process. So considering the economics process, instead of only reducing the pressure, we slightly increase, but it is even not more than 25 to 30. It's somewhat around this only. So and that too in the secondary stage. So this is how we go for, we say it as a sublimation. So hope it was very simple to understand, and this my target was basically make it clear to the students, those who are new into the field and want to understand the simple basic concept, how hot air drying, vacuum drying and freeze drying process differs. This is a commercial freeze dryer, and they normally, you in the lab we have a small setup very with a lower capacity, but at industrial level huge freeze dryers are available and they can dry the produce in the tons. The only problem is the time taking process, and that is more, sometime 3 to 4 days, sometime 5, depending upon the commodities to commodities and the amount of the material that you are drying. I have discussed the advantage and disadvantage. Superheated steam. Now, you consider this steam, superheated steam drying technology is very much similar to the hot air drying, as the process is the same. Only the change is in the medium. There, the medium is air. Here, the superheated steam is used as a drying medium. What happens here? Like simply, what you say is that you are having water, and if you heat this water, then it become your steam become the saturated steam. Now if you, and it has more of the moisture into it, but if you further heat this saturated steam using some heater, then you are increasing dryness factor into your saturated steam. It is no longer saturated, it is becoming superheated steam. Now, the degree of heating will vary depending upon the temperature that you will be using, and again the pressure also. Okay, so steam that has been heated beyond its boiling point at a specific pressure. The pressure is very important for the steam, like at 100 degrees Celsius, it is at 1 atmospheric pressure. Okay, so that above the saturation temperature. And this superheated steam has high specific heat and thermal conductivity that it is able to take the moisture present in your sample, and that's why act as a medium to take away the moisture. This is the benefit of superheated steam drying. Just you would be new to this concept, just let me tell it once again. Simply, you have steam generated through the boiler, and that is saturated and high amount of the moisture is present. If you further heat this saturated steam, it will become superheated steam at a particular temperature and pressure. And at this particular temperature and pressure, it has high specific heat and thermal conductivity higher than that of air, so that, and it is able to take the moisture present into the sample. Now, question would be there that condensation can occur. Condensation will not occur until the temperature maintained is above the saturation temperature of the steam. Let's say if this is a drying chamber and I have already superheated it to 120 degrees Celsius, and inside this drying chamber I am using a heater, and I maintain the temperature of that heater above around 120 or 130, then the saturation or the condensation will not occur. And that will be, and if condensation will not occur, then it has high heat and will able be to take away the moisture from the sample. There are the several benefits associated with the superheated steam drying that we will discuss. Superheated steam, just you are using steam as a medium instead of hot air or any flue gases, hydrogen or nitrogen. Very useful due to high heat transfer rate, high thermal conductivity, and less energy consumption. Like the most important benefit is that in this superheated steam drying, you can recirculate the steam used. Since the steam itself is a moisture, so if it is taking some moisture from the sample, it is becoming a part of the medium that is you are going to dry. So the heat, let's say this is your steam generator, you are generating the steam, this is going to the heating chamber, then it is becoming superheated steam, and then you are drying. So additional some of the moisture is also being absorbed into the steam medium from that is evaporated from the sample, that you can recover here, and the rest of the steam can continue in the process. Since over here the temperature of the superheated steam, maybe let's say it would be you used here at 120, maybe the steam temperature over here would be 1110, or maybe let's say 105. So you have to add less heat further to make it into the cycle. But again, if you are separately generating the steam, then it will add more to the cost. Again, the additional heat or the moisture that has come up from the sample, you can collect it, and the energy generated during the condensation, that steam or energy recovery, can used also for the different process also. That's why if used in circulatory system, it can save a lot of the energy. There are several benefits of using superheated steam, like the product benefits. You obtain a better product quality. And if you use low pressure under vacuum, then it is again absence of oxygen would be there, and less degradation of the compound would be there because of the limiting browning reaction. And the product quality is better in terms of the more porous structure, like evaporation of the or evolution of the moisture basically occur within the material, which cause the cell to expand as the moisture flushes into the steam, making it more porous. Whereas in air drying, the movement occur from inside of
Just an announcement for the attendees. We had a technical error. We are getting back. So the speaker is also joining us in a short span of time. We'll be back. Thank you so much.
Participants, please wait for a minute. We are facing some technical issues right now. The speaker will join us in another 2-3 minutes. Host. Join us, panelist. Yes, ma'am, your slides are visible.
Yes, sir. Just a second, I'll come to the slide. I'm really sorry for the interruption.
No problem.
So basically, I talked over here how through the closed system operation, we can save the energy and we can utilize this exhausted heat for the different application. And as I was telling, in case of hot air drying, like we are emitting the air directly outside. So if in case some producers like this have some compounds that are harmful and can create some of the environmental pollution, although we do not have some regulatory aspect till now to emit anything during the drying process, but maybe with certain time and with being so much consciousness going on regarding the climate changes, then there can be so many restrictions regarding that. Then we have to look for alternative technologies also. So what in superheated steam, if some even material is there that is not that is harmful, then we can condensate the material and can decontaminate or can go for the further processing, but it will not create directly, or we cannot directly emit into the environment. That is the another benefit of this processing technology. And a porous structure or better rehydration are the another advantages. Talking about the drying process in this one, it is if we can simplify it as, it is a closed system drying method where vaporization of water and the product occur by the medium, that is your superheated steam. And it has a benefit of allowing good heat transfer rate and no diffusive resistance. Why I am mentioning no diffusive resistance? Like in case, while you are drying using hot air, your moisture is getting evaporated into an environment where air is there. So because of this, there is some diffusion resistance there. But in case of superheated steam, the moisture that is present in your sample, it is becoming a part of medium, that is your steam. So there is less resistance during the diffusion process. That's why faster drying rates are obtained. Okay, and moreover, more porous structure is obtained because evaporation or evolution of moisture in the drying using superheated steam, it is occurring basically within the material, which causes the cells to expand and this moisture flushes out into steam, making it more porous. Talking about the different phase in the drying technology, like your initial adjustment phase is there, constant rate, falling rate, it is the same. But comparative to the air drying, in case of the superheated steam drying, there is a certain initial condensation occur. Initial condensation basically occur because of the difference in the temperature of your product and your superheated steam. Due to this only, and it hardly lasts for a few seconds or maximum 1 minute, depending upon the difference in the temperature. This initial condensation is also useful in certain cases, and useful in certain cases, like in case of your cereal products, where we want to add moisture to the product, so that like you are parboiling, you add moisture into the product and further basically cause gelatinization of your starches. So it is helpful in that case. Another way, if like in case of fruit and vegetable, since it is occurring for fractional second, but at industrial level, it can matter a lot. So what we can do in that, we can make the system heated before, so that this difference in temperature can be reduced, and we can reduce this condensation also. This is a superheated steam dryer at KMUTT, Thailand University. The professor has worked around for past 10 years over this drying technology. You can see this is the drying chamber, and these are the tray, and this is the chamber where the steam is further heated, and we need to control this steam pressure from here, and basically which will the rate at which it is going inside. This is the space over here. This steam would be passing as a medium over to dry this produce. Data loggers and all can be collected into the computer system. These are the controlling units for controlling fan or the vacuum or other parameters into this one. At the bottom is also there is a load cell attached to it to continuously measure the this data. For the same equipments, I'll show you 2-3 studies that have been done. Right now, I'm talking about superheated steam drying under vacuum, because for the fruits and vegetable, we cannot do it drying around 120 or 130, as it will reduce the polyphenolic components, antioxidants, and other components, as well as degrade the color. That's why what we do
Hello. To all the participants, there are some network issue. Hello. There is some network issue. We'll be returning within a minute. Thank you.
Is there any question? I'm not able to hear at all. Any questions? Okay, I'll see the chat box if there is some question into this one. But there is, I can see there's someone have asked if there's changes in the shrinkage. Yes, certain changes are there. It cannot be possible that to make the produce into the bring into after drying into the same shape. But after rehydration, the percentage of the rehydration ratio is quite higher comparative to the conventional method. But there is one other question. Can we dry some fibrous material with same technique? Yes, you can dry different fibrous material also. For fibrous material, even you can use the atmospheric drying. You don't have to even use the low pressure superheated steam drying. In case of low pressure, we are making it more of the for the fruits and vegetable. Can we dry jackfruit slices? Of course, you can dry jackfruit slices. Here, the example I have given are tentatively, but only just you have to optimize the temperature and the pressure. You can do it.
Am
There
I
is
audible,
one.
ma'am?
Yes, you are audible.
Good morning, ma'am. I'm a research scholar in Sant Longowal Institute.
Okay.
And my question is this, say for example, we are having a fruit of kinnu peat and kinnu. Kinnu is having a lot of fibrous material inside it. So like we are gonna have to dry it, but we do not want to degrade the quality and the bioactive compounds present in that fibrous material. So
Okay.
can we use these techniques for the same, or we have to modify or just go with the other one?
No, there are the several drying technology. If you talk about low pressure, then it can be done in like mangosteen rind. It is having it was a outer cover. It was a of that particular fruit. That is also very rich in polyphenolic component and this fibrous component. So if we can dry that, then you can go for this one kinnu fiber also, and that's what. But you have to only see, will you be doing it at atmospheric pressure? Will you be doing it at low pressure? Okay, just you have to see the sensitivity of your product.
Okay. Thank you so much, ma'am. Okay, thank you.
Kindly suggest about sensorial aspects. If we see the first, in terms of this, you can see the color comes into the picture. And for the color, I have shown you so many examples related how the better retention in terms of the technical by the color colorimeter also, and in terms of the visual appearance also. So that is retaining better. And also again, the product obtained in different drying technology, you obtain different type of crispiness into the product. Like if you are using more of the mango, in certain, if you are using the type of the variety also plays, like you can obtain a more of the crispy product if you are having lower sugar content into it. If your product is like your mango, if it's more ripened, then in that it will give you more of the chewiness into this one. Then there is another question, which is the best drying technique for jackfruit kernel? I can't say about which is the best one, but you can look for the latest innovative technology that are going on related to jackfruit. As per my knowledge, work have not been done over the low pressure superheated steam drying. Now you see also, like in case of jackfruit kernel, you want to see if there are not sensitive component, you basically want to more of the cellulose or the fiber portion, then you can go for atmospheric drying rather than low pressure. Because if you are going for low pressure, again more energy consumption would be there, whereas in case of atmospheric, lesser energy consumption would be there. I couldn't see any more questions. Hope I have answered most of the questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time, Rachna madam. I hope this presentation was very much helpful for our participants.
Thank you, ma'am, for delivering information about the superheated steam drying. Next, I call upon Dr. Dattatreya M. Kadam, who is working as principal scientist in Agricultural Process Engineering, ICR Sirkot, Mumbai. He has completed his BTech in Agricultural Engineering from University of Agriculture Science, Dharwad, MTech in Processing and Agriculture Structure from Punjab Agriculture University, Ludhiana, and PhD in Agriculture Engineering from Indian Agriculture Research Institute, New Delhi. He has more than 8 years of experience in R&D at ICR CFET Ludhiana and ICR Sirkot Mumbai. He has developed 13 technologies, published more than 42 research papers in national and international journals. Dr. Kadam has expertise in food process engineering, machine design, nanotechnology, value addition, and so on. He is also expertise in ITMU, IPR, business planning and development, ABI, and establishing fast post-harvest machinery and equipment testing center in India. Thank you, sir, for being here. I would like to request you deliver your lecture about current status and innovation of processing and value addition of agri-horti produce. Over to you, sir.
Excuse me, sir. Please unmute yourself, sir. Your slides are visible to us.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Now it is perfect, sir.
Okay. Good morning to all of you, and welcome to ICR Sirkot Mumbai. It is very warm climate here and very pleasant. And we are going to talk about this processing of agri-horticulture crops. And I think Hindi speaking or English speaking is okay, or English is only okay. Okay, I'll go with the English only. Okay. Now we are talking about this topic. Current status and innovations of processing and value additions of agri-horti producers. Myself is Dr. D.M. Kadam, Principal Scientist at ICR Sirkot Mumbai now. And as we know that a national scenario of this fruits and vegetable processing or the agricultural material processing, and it is normally contributes about the 70% of the GDPs, and it is the workforce required is about 50 to 55%, and it is almost normally contributes about the 65% of the population is engaged in these activities. And as of we know that India is the major producers of the food grains of about 291.95 million tons in 2019 and 20. And fruits and vegetables is about the 90.2 and 169.1 million tons respectively in 2015 and 16. And this is the second largest in the world. And as per the estimate of the CFET Ludhiana, it is the post-harvest losses is about the 3 to 18%. That presently costs about the 92,651 crore rupees to the Indian nation, and that is the huge amount for the any country. And as we know that it is the very low processing of fruits and vegetables. Mainly we are talking about the fruits and vegetables. If you talk about the all crop processing, it will be entirely different. But when you talk about this fruits and vegetable processing, it is hardly 2%. And fruit processing or food processing industry, as Madam was mentioning that I'm looking at the ITMU, BPD, business planning development, agribusiness incubations, and all at CFET Ludhiana, that business is a very important aspect. Okay, these lectures also mixed with the business aspect also to encourage the students and the new entrepreneurs that may be helpful for them. In that case, normally when in the food processing industry, normally we invest 10 to 15 lakh rupees, we are able to get 1.8 to the 2 jobs per investment of 10 to 15 lakhs. Now the cost is increased, that's why I'm just increased to the 10 to 15 lakhs. And this will be also directly helpful for the get the about 6 to 7 jobs for investment of the 10 to 15 lakh rupees in the small scale food processing industries. We know what is the food processing, as already you are NIT in the food processing department. I hope that everyone knows, but just for the general audience, I would like to say that the transformation of the surplus food into the value, various convenience foods such as jam, jelly, pickles, flakes, beverages, instant mixes, powders by preservations or by the processing techniques to term as a food processing. And the number of definitions are available to the different authors and different researchers. But it is directly indirectly it is the processing and preservation of the food products for the use of the future users as per our requirement and save from the losses. The food processing sector is a huge, as we know very well, and it covers the wide area varieties of the activities such as agriculture, horticulture, plantation, crops, animal husbandry, and fisheries. These are the major areas where India lies, and India's farmers are engaged in these all activities. And these activities will be helpful for the upliftment of the farmers' incomes as well as to the consumers' benefits. And nowadays, this health consciousness is increasing a lot, and the health consciousness is paying the huge amount to the farmers as well as to the consumers and also the pharma and medical industries, where we are not able to take the proper food or good quality food for ourselves, then we are to investing in the medical and the healthcare systems. Instead of that, we should be more targeted onto the basic raw material consumptions. That is a major is the food. In the food, either maybe the form of agriculture commodity, maybe horticulture, or maybe plantation, or maybe animal husbandry products, or the fishery products. And that should be the having the good quality materials that will be yield the maximum health. And as this is a corona shown us, that is the health is wealth. And it is already well known earlier, but we have forgotten in the in between, and we are running for this work and work. And we realize that the corona has taught us that is the health is wealth, and that's for purposes we should be dependent on the very healthy foods and very nutritious foods. Not only the feeding the belly feeding is the one thing, but we should get the required amount of the nutrition, calories, and the all the minerals required, which is normally lacking in the many foods. That's we are to target and make the food in such a way that the consumer also get benefited, all the farmers should be get benefited, and the nation should grow. For that purposes, the food process engineers, food processing industries is to play a very important role. And the food processing industry, as we know, that benefit to the farmers as well as to the consumer, and it's reduce the post-harvest losses. That is the first criteria. And to the farmers, and to provide the convenience food to the consumer. That is the another things. And although the India is the food processing sector is huge, and it is the still in the nascent stage, we can call, because we have the number of populations, plus we have vast country, 7th largest country in the world, and by the area, and also by population 2nd largest. And apart from the diversified climatic regions, diversified states, and the crop growing patterns and all, that gives the huge potentials in the India that each and every crop can be grown, and the all types of the food products we can get from the north to the south and so on. And it is estimated that the highly profitable business in the coming decades, as the food processing industry is a highly business, is the profitable business. In that case, we need to have a constant effort. If somebody is thinking that I want to start a business in the food processing industry and he will become a crorepati in the 1 month or 1 year, it is not possible at all. Okay, if the big industry is doing, that is the different issues. I'm not going to talk on that one. But thing is that in reality, you will sustain and you will earn a lot of money, but it is required consistently efforts, quality maintenance and quantity maintenance is the very important. And also the taste maintained around the year. When I want to buy any products from any branded company or in the local market, I prefer to have a taste when I purchase first time. That taste I like, I want to buy repeatedly. For that purposes, the taste and should be maintained throughout the production line and throughout the supply to the consumers. If the taste is varies, then the definitely consumer may not be like your product once again to buy. In that case, the quality is the first aspects, Second thing is the quantity, and apart from that, prices also play important roles. But in nowadays, the price is not much effect since the purchasing power of the many people has increased a lot. And as we know that already said that India stands in the second in the production of fruits and vegetables, and it has a potential being the first in the food and agriculture sectors. For that, we need to have a lot of systematic and the scientific way of production and the processing. Despite being the major food producers, the share of the Indian food processing industry trade is almost or less than 10%. It varies from the data to data, and the reports varies, but actually it is as such, it is a hardly a 10%. The agriculture and dairy sectors has achieved the remarkable success in the green revolution as well as in the white revolutions, and that we know very well. Apart from that, number of other revolutions were there for the different commodities, and the blue revolutions, meat, red revolutions, orange revolution, golden revolutions, and many things we know very well. Okay, and the supply chain management. This is one of the major compounds which is normally missing in this Indian systems, and that is with the techniques of the harvesting, post-harvesting processing, and better transportation, storages, and to the processing lines. That is the lag behind normally. And this is the mismatch with the production as well as to the marketing and the processing. As I mentioned, that is the India is the huge country, and this picture depicts that from the top we can get the very good apples, and to the south you can get the very good tomatoes or mangoes, or roses, or the oranges, or maybe other products, and the northeast also you can get very good quality of the pineapples and many things. And okay, and this is the available around the year in the different area, different crops are available, and the nowadays the roads and the transport is very huge infrastructure is developed by the government of India, and it's very good infrastructure is available. One can move this material. Even earlier we used to call it the only 60 kilometer diameter or 100 kilometer diameter should be processed, but nowadays many people are going for this even long transportations for one day, and they're buying it and they processing it. But that is not such a, it is advisable, because the cost that also matters, transportation cost increases. Instead of that, we can have the local processing industries, and in the local processing industry, one should have medium capacity or small capacity processing lines. As I'm a consumer, I'm a entrepreneur, want to be entrepreneurs. When I approach to these manufacturing industries, manufacturing industry means machine manufacturing I'm talking. Machine manufacturing industries, they insist that their intention is that their machine should be sold and they get the maximum profit and then maximum money. Whereas as a consumer or the manufacturer or entrepreneurs, I want to see what type of machinery required. Even in the many machine manufacturers, they hardly requires 80% machineries. They insist for the 110% machinery to be implemented. And the capacity also they insist for the higher, because they will get the more earnings. They does not matter. They don't matter about the availability of the raw material in the local. The local raw material is very important. Normally, when I'm sitting in Mumbai, normally I see, or in any city where you are sitting, this Delhi or any city, and Odisha, Bhubaneswar, any city you can sit, and you can see that normally we feel 10 tons of tomatoes coming today, and 2 trucks are not sold and then thrown on the roads. Example, this is normally happen in the all news media and those. Okay, and in that case, normally I think of starting any business, I will think that I will start a 10 trucks of capacity factory. But remember that this 10 truck is coming for the daily consumption, fresh consumption. First of all, we need to understand it is coming for the fresh consumption and not for the processing. Only surplus is remaining hardly 2 trucks. And if I start a business of 10 truck capacity processing line, then all material will be diverted to the industry and the consumer have left with no choice for the consumption. And that is not possible to convert 100%, then you will be run the shortage of the raw material. In case if you are seeing that the 2 trucks is surplus, then only plan for the 1 truck surplus capacity. In that case, you will get the sufficient raw material and that machinery will be run and you will get the benefit out of it. And initially, you are making the investment, that is a dead investment. Whatsoever they doing the investment, it is not going to come afterwards. If the machineries are there, if you're lying without using it, there is no use. That's why you should plan in such a way that you should have proper utilization capacity. Even sometimes if you increase in 1 ton per hour capacity, and if you increase to the 5 tons, hardly 40% price variation will be there, as the industry says. But it does not matter. In unnecessary increasing the capacity will not meet the your requirement, because you are not able to get the proper raw material. And unless until the food processing industry, you are not able to run for at least 210 days or 300 days a year, then it's not going to be the big loss of the flop industries. And that should not be happen. And apart from that, we know that our fruits and vegetables, especially when we talk, is not a processable variety in many cases. These are the only consumable varieties, and the breeders from horticultures and the agriculture need to take care that they have to more develop the processable varieties also. And when the processable variety is not there, when we are trying to process it, the cost will be increases. Example, if I want to do for the tomato processing, the tomato processing value, the raw material is having the moisture content is more, then I want to evaporate it, it will take a lot of energy. And that energy will be going to cost you more me too, and the production cost will increases and the market price will automatically increases. In that case, the industry will get the losses or not able to come out with the profit. We know that this effect with has conducted one of the studies in the long back in 2010 and 12, and then repeatedly conducted in 2015-16, and the assessment of the post-harvest loss, quantitative losses that studied, and it is observed that in the 46 crop commodities assessed, there's about the 44,000 crore rupees losses was measured or assumed or calculated on the base upon to the 2009 base prices or wholesale prices. And that to the repeated studies, it was went to the 92,615 crore rupees. And this is considered in the parliament also, is presented in parliament also, and it is observed that is a huge losses are happening, and it is a really fact is happening. And the cereal pulses, we can go 3%, 3.9% losses, and pulses of 4.3%, oil seeds 2.8, fruits about 5.8, and vegetable of 6.8%. And it is the minimum levels, and the maximum level is going to the 12.5 in the vegetables, the 18% in the fruits, especially that's in the guava. It is observed in the oil seeds 10.1% in the groundnut, which is due to the alpha-toxins compounds and other oil losses. Pulses in the black grams, it is 6.1, and the cereals, the wheat, because the major consumer products, it is left in this FCA godowns and transported, and many times it is left delayed, and due to that it is happening in the losses and so on. That we know very well that what are the reasons for the losses. This first is the handling of the raw material to the through the middlemen, because these middlemen are normally engaged for the transportations and the buying and selling the products as per the their requirement from the city to cities, and the from the buying the farmers from the farmers and by selling to the consumers. And that is the middleman handling will be making the mechanical injuries to the fruits and vegetables. And the processing of the almost controlled by the urban rather than the rural entrepreneurs, which leads to the losses of the valuable by the products, and non-availability of the adequate and the efficient equipments and machinery to the use for the catchment area. That is also one of the major constraints. Even though a lot of the equipments and instruments are available, but actually it is not reaching to each and every one. And even the many times the farmers negligence or the middleman negligence, it happens, and they go as per the traditional methods what they're following, because they are habitual to use those tools, and they're not ready to acquire with the new tools. And the movement of the tools also the one of the major constraints in here. That's why they are not worried, because when they buy from the farmer's field, it hardly catches 3 to 4 rupees per kg of tomato, and that can be sold in the market of the 30 to 40 rupees prices, or not less than 25 rupees or so. Means almost getting the 10 to 20%, 10 to 12 times higher the prices than what they are getting from the farmer's field. That's why they're not much worried on that one also. And apart from the low level of entrepreneurship are just in the rural area due to the constraints of finance. There's a big constraints. I say that because the finance, many schemes are available in the government of India, and government is following a lot of things to be followed. But like officers sitting in this government officers or in the banks or in the finance institutions, they are not ready to change it, or that maybe they due to some reasons or some rules, old rules, and many things, their unawareness, or they don't want to support it, and many more things. And apart from that, the assured market is the big problems, because already the well-established industries are there, we advertising in huge, spending huge money on the advertisement, and they are hiring this very big popular artists, actors and all that to attract their consumers. Whereas the new farmers or the new entrepreneurs may not be able to attract that much and may not be reach to the end users or the many users. And also we don't believe or keep faith on each other. Normally, when we say this, I'm producing with the very hygienic, very small quantity material preparing, but neighbors don't believe him or they have faith on him, and that we need to create a faith on ourselves from the neighbors, and we need to buy the locals, as our PM says, from local for local and global, local for local. Okay, in that case we need to popularize by the ourselves, our products, our village products more. And in that case, excuse me, hello, हाँ? अभी मैं मीटिंग में हूँ तो उस बाद में बात करूँ। And the financial agencies, they are not properly giving trainings, or also there is the lags. Even when the entrepreneurs want the trainings or the farmers want training, the many people don't want to give the training at times. And normally when we know that this metal is hot, then we need to hammer it. If you wait for this sometimes, and as per my convenience I will hammer it, then the metal will not get flat. In the here, similar to that one, in the food processing industry, to establishing any industry, new entrepreneurs coming, immediately he should be trained and be given this full financial supports, and try to make this assured market, or give this some technology trainings, and they provide the sufficient. Hello. Hello, Commodore. Sorry. And there is a mismatch rules are also there. There are the example I was talking about this banks, they are not giving, the government is saying that you should give the collateral free securities, collateral free loans to the entrepreneurs, and this one bank rules are not changed, and there are many more. And there is the mismatch of the rules and regulations are exist in the Indian systems, so that should be go, and based on that one can we have. And apart from that, many people run for the some subsidies, and some people run for the actually business. And whosoever want to go for the real business, they will sustain and they'll come. And if somebody is only for running for the subsidy, then normally it is possible that they'll be fail in the many cases. And the whole the existence of fragmented and the inefficient value chains is also the major constraints for the food losses. Higher the value additions, better will the post-harvest losses management, and the lower will be the losses. That is the normal common mantra. There are the strategies to reduce the post-harvest losses. There are the different strategies are followed, and one can say that the 5 strategies can be followed to reduce the post-harvest losses. Development of loss measurement protocols, where exactly loss is happening, and how it is happening, and how it can be reduced, or how it can be mitigated, or how it is possible to measure. And that protocol will be helpful to the adoptions of the new technologies, new tools. The number of tools are available. The number of tools are available in the many labs, but not come to these industries. And the industry should come forward, and the institutes also, research institutes or the academic institutes should come forward to the exchange these ideas and get it developed in the markets, and they reach to the end users. And to set the loss reduction targets, one we have to the reduction of target, then I will be helpful, or I'll try to reduce the post-harvest losses from the at least 1% per year. Based on that, one can go and increase the processing and reduce the post-harvest losses if possible, but that to have the proper targets. increase the investment, they reduce the post-harvest losses. In that case, government is doing a lot of effort in this increasing investment, but sometimes it is the laxing, as mentioned in the rules and regulations, not aware of the policies, not clear-cut instructions. Many government schemes are announced in crores of rupees, but they actually not reaching to the end user. In that case, there is also the problem in the government systems, that the many schemes are announced. In the example, you can take in the COVID 2020-21, there are a lot of schemes are announced, crores of rupees announced, but actually I see any, it has reached to the end user or the market or the real users. It may be in the paper only, but it has to reach to the real users. Then it is possible to increase the processing production and reduce the losses. And create entity devoted to the reduce the post-harvest losses, just like any organizations or something like that, and maybe the some officers may be responsible for that and make the study and analyze the how it is happening, how to mitigate it, how to reduce it, and that should be done properly. And there should be coordination between the state government and central government, the central institute, state research institutes, industries, and linkage should be properly there. If it is there, then it is possible to reduce the losses. And accelerate and support the collaborative initiatives to reduce the post-harvest losses. As I was saying, the linkages, the collaborative institutes, the state agency, government agency, private industries, and the entrepreneurs and the farmers, there should be proper linkages. As such, many organizations, many systems, we don't have the linkages to each other because there are a lot of workload also, as well as the direction of the staffs in the government systems. And apart from that, what is called each and every state or each and every government is having the different rules and regulations, and each department, if I want to go for the setup the industry, that the having this land procurement and allotment is entirely different section. When I go for this finances, they have the different set of rules. When I go for this processing, the FSSI and the FD and all, that have a set of different rules. I go for the electrical connection, that have a set of different rules. Pollution have a set of rules. Even though they made in a lot of government, they made this single window system, but there is still a lot of differences, confusions, and the lacunas are there. I was talking about this processing, especially talking about this fruits and vegetables. In that case, the varieties and hybrids suitable for the processing is very important, and those are normally missing in the our country, because we are mainly emphasis on the increasing the production and yield increase, and that is the for the consumption purposes. And here we required is the for processing varieties, and some of these institutes have made effort to develop the varieties, just like onion can be used from the Pusa red, white, and the Pusa white flat can be used for the process that to make the flakes and powder. And this is one of the good technology. One can adapt it and make the onion processing into the valued products. And it is a huge market demand. And one can think of this new product development, such as ready to fry onion flakes, dried flakes, and the roasted flakes. And apart from the number of names are there, and fast food industry is growing very fast. And in that case, it is a requirement is very high. And normally, in the onion industry, what happens? Many players are there to establish industry. They are small scale industry they are established, but requirement is very huge, and it is the export potential is very high. That's why the exporters wants every times at least 20-ton containers. And to get this onion of 20-ton containers, how much quantity you need, you have to calculate. That is the almost a 10 to 15% yield you can get from 1 kg of the onion. Fresh onion will yield 15% of yield. In that case, you will be getting per kg about 100 to 150 grams of the dried onion. For that quantity, you have to multiply it, and you get that much of fresh onion for the processing. And that to the fresh onion, that multiply the cost of the onion. Example, if you take 5 rupees kg also, it will be very huge amount. And in that case, it is very difficult for the small scale processor to process it and dry it. And already earlier lectures, madam was saying that the processing and drying and all. In that case, it is a very good business, but here we need to have an integrated management, and different small industries can join hand together and make the maybe per day 1 ton products of 100 kg dried material, and combine together and they sell to the wholesaler or for the export purposes into the make the required materials. But if you want to think of a single person, it may not be, it may be difficult for him, or unless until a big industry comes. Similar to this tomato processing, there are a number of varieties are available for the processables that are only limited, and that to the farmers are not going much on those varieties because they know that it is the industry will buy at a very less price, maybe say 5 to 6 rupees kg per kg they buy wholesale rates, and the market maybe they will be able to sell at 10, 12 rupees. That's why farmers may think of the high yield variety, not than the processable varieties. In that case, the Pusa, Gaurav, Roma, Punjab, Chaura, Arka, Saurabh, Pusa hybrid, 2-4. These are the varieties available. They are best for the making the sauces, ketchup, and chutneys. Similarly, in the potato chips, normally Kufri, Chipsona 1 and 2, these are the popular varieties available in the developed by the CP Potato Research Center Simla, and chips that is a very good chips. It is available in India from that varieties, and also the peas are also the Pusa, Pragati, Arkel. These are the cannings and freezings. Peas are very good, and in the chili Pusa. Sadabahar, Punjab Lals, and Pant C1. These are the very good chilies for the drying and the sauce makings. And Ashgards, where we go for the making the sweet potatoes, peta, and all that the Pusa Shakti CO1 and French beans, just like Pusa, Parvati, and contenders canning. These are the good. These are some of the examples. There are a number of varieties also now coming up. They are very good for the processing, but think what happens when we go for the processing industry. We need huge quantity of the raw material, and the raw material availability is depends on the farmers. And farmers today, this year he may grow this particular variety, and the next year he may not be like to grow because he is the seeing that the other farmers. Excuse me for 1 minute. Hello. Meeting and this farmers this year play grow one crop, maybe tomato. Next year he don't want to grow the tomato continuously, or he want to change, seeing that the tamarind is turmeric or maybe other coriander or maybe methi, leafy vegetables, they're getting very high price. They will start growing the other crops, and then the shortage of the material starts and the industry will get stuck. In that case, purposes, normally when we go for the processing industries, you should be considered that the multi-purpose, especially when you talk about the fruits and vegetable industry. The fruits and vegetable processing industry should be multi-purpose. It can be processed at least 3-4 products. Example, if you take over this tomato processing industry, that should be able to process mango. That should be able to process the guava. That should be able to process, you can say, pineapple. That should be able to process other materials, just like papaya, just like a chiku or sapota, and other things also. Similarly, if you go for the cannings, with the multiple canning systems, it should be there. That you can process the different cannings. If you go for dryings, if for example talking about the onion dryings, you should be going for dryings. Only onion, if you're thinking, it will not survive. In that case, you can go for the chili, green chili dryings. You can go for this tomato dryings. You can go for the leafy vegetable dryings. You can go for this garlic, ginger dryings, and many things like that. You should have the multiple options in your hand, and the industry should run at least not less than 250 to 200, or you can, if you run for 300 days, it is one of the best industry, and you will sustain and you will get to huge profit out of it. And market is huge. You remember that market is huge. There's no dearth of market unless, but you have to sustain for at least 6 months to 1 year continuously, consistently, and also develop a repo that one person is buying today, he may repeatedly come and ask that your product you want. That should be maintained. That's why the industry will sustain. If for the meager profit or the some what is unwanted practices you want to do it, unauthorized practices or the adulteration or something you are doing for the just little benefit, then you are going to lose a whole business. Okay. Now coming back to this emerging technologies, advances are that one we are talking about briefly. Already I was seeing that this training schedule, that number of technology already addressed, but I will give you the brief about this. These are the technologies that those can be adapted and be taken for the processing of the different commodities. Emerging technology for the food processing. One is the minimal processing, modified and controlled atmosphere packagings, smart and biodegradable packagings of food, plasma technology for removal of the ethylene from the fruits and vegetable, microwave and infrared processing, ohmic heating processing, infrared, food infrared, pulse electrical field, high pressure processing, explosion buffing, cryogenic grindings in the food processing, membrane filtration, biosensor for rapid and the precise quality assessment, nanotechnology in food processing, foam dryings, ultrasound, supercritical fluid including waters, extrusion processing, and nutrigenetics. These are some of this, we can say these are the emerging technologies, concepts are there. Even though it is already exist in the many technologies already exist, until there is a lot of scope for these technologies to be adopted. Now coming to this harvesting, pre-harvesting and harvesting, post-harvesting. As we know that the number of harvesters are available in the market, but many things are not reached in the markets, and due to the many constraints, due to the land holdings, there are the prices, even the lot of government is giving subsidy. Just I want to make some point to this, all these students and professors and industry, some participants who are attending. See, in many example, if you can take the tractors purchasing is in the under subsidies and all, the price is about 5 small tractors, I'm talking 5 to 6 lakhs or so. But whereas the production cost of the tractor, I believe it is hardly 1 to 1.5 lakh. But due to the subsidies, the rates are increased like anything, and the actual subsidy benefit is supposed to reach to the end user, just as a farmers. That is not reaching to him. It is actually manipulated by the manufacturers, industries, and they are grabbing it. Here, the actually loser is the farmers as such, because we see when the production cost is about 1 to 1.5 lakhs, you can add the 25% profit also. They can sell at 2 lakh or maybe 2.5 lakh, but they are selling not less than 5 lakhs. This is the almost more than double they are charging, and the name of the subsidy government is giving of the 35% subsidy or 40%, 50%, even some in the state government is more, or even some state is less. But ultimate benefit is going to the big industry, the manufacturing industry. I'm not blaming that manufacturing industry should not take the benefit, but they should get benefit, but it should be reached to the farmers. And ultimately, loser is the farmers here or the end users who is buying the machineries. And this is the scheme is moderated or manipulated by the mainly manufacturing industry, not the farmers. And based upon that, the prices are increased. That should be brought down, and should be the some mechanism has to be developed by the government organization, government systems, that the actually what are the production cost. Example, I want to buy the machines, how much is going to actually production cost, how much the remaining investment, and how much profit I can give to the manufacturers. If I assume that the 25% in manufacturing getting the profit is huge margin, and that is sufficient. Okay, but here they're getting more than 120% or 25% margin, and in the name of the subsidy they're getting from the governments. That should be looked into the matter by the government organizations and the government systems and the what is the rules from policy makers. And apart from that, this is washing machines. So this is one of the washing machines is normally required in the farm levels, where this immediately processed materials or the harvested material can be cleaned and washed and properly brought to the market. When properly possible to harvest, just like in this second photo, you can see the properly harvesting machines are available. It can be time it will save, and damages also reduces. And the immediately that product is washed or properly cleaned or cured, then it is brought to the market. You are be reducing the losses, and the also giving the microbial load, so you are reducing at the field itself, and your product will be safe for the transportation and handlings. But normally we normally harvest from this field and directly bring to this market, and while transportation, some of the microbial contamination losses, they make the losses to the fresh produces, especially fruits and vegetables and the root crops. In that case, there are the, as earlier we were talking about, the small field scale machines are required. There are already machines are exist, but that should be adopted in the farmers level, or maybe portable or the mobile systems need to be made. That can be a tractor, or maybe some vans can be moved to the farmer field to field, and that custom hiring system should to come. Similarly, when we go for this harvesting of the fruits and vegetables or any materials, the grading or even the grain and cereals also, the grading and sorting is a very important components. But normally we lack in that case. We don't want to grade and directly push into the market. And without graded materials will be sold at the 10 rupees. But if you grade at the small and medium and the bigger one, all the sorted material can be sold at 15 rupees. It is possible because normally people like attractions, and eye appearance it will give the very uniform size, and every size, small, medium, and bigger, it has a consumers. Everyone likes the different sizes. Okay, and in the processing, the bigger size is the one of the best, no doubt. Even the medium also can be processed as per the requirement and what type of products you are going to develop it. When I'm selling the products of any commodity, example tomato, mix one, then as a consumer, when I go to market, I know what size of the tomato I want. I will normally try to sort in that thela, and I will try to pick. And while the trying, I will be moving the number of tomatoes from the up and down. In that case, a lot of damage takes place. Manhandling will be done, injuries will be there, and ultimately in the evening, when the market start in the morning, in the evening, there will be out of 100 kg to 3 kg are going to the take losses are due to the only pushing and the movements and all. In that case, it is very good to avoid that movements or the sorting, the grading at the market field. If we do the grading and sorting at the field itself, then you can fetch the more prices. Okay, maybe the tomato, maybe this onion, maybe lemon, or maybe carrot, or the potato, whatever it may be. That is the very important. And similarly, the grain also, we should have proper grading. That will be helpful for get the more price fetches to the farmers and end users. And if you talk about the grain cleaning and grading, then normally there are a lot of the dust and contamination lies. And after harvesting, if you are not able to properly dry and clean it, then the fungus will grow on the fungus, or microbial load will grow on the where this unwanted materials lays. And that will be because normally it is the dust type material, is very hygroscopic. It will absorb the maximum moisture. And when the maximum moisture absorbs, it will automatically safe place for the growth of the microorganisms. And once the microorganism starts, it will immediately spread to the other organisms or the food grains. In that case, the safe cleaning, grading, and washing as in required, and storage at the particular temperature. It plays a very important. As we know that the factor affecting the shelf life, majorly as mentioned, mechanical injury, transportation, handling, and biological disorders, maybe the infections and all, natural decays, air temperature, air composition, oxygen and carbon dioxide level also they play very important roles when we are talking about the transportation and the storage. When we are transporting or we are harvesting, immediately forced cooling can be done for this many fruits and vegetable or commodities to bring down the temperature and reduce the respiration rate and decays. And once we are going for some suitable temperatures, that to be proper temperature will be helpful for the enhancement of the shelf life and reduction of the ethylene production or ripening. And in the storages and all, we can go for the maintaining the oxygen and carbon dioxide. That will be helpful for the enhance the shelf life. Normally, when we do the research, I hope that many will be on the research people here, our students. When we do the research, normally when we go for packaging, we go for the layman packaging normally. Whatsoever this packaging available in the market, we many times we pick it and then try to store it, make some holes or the respiration rates changes, and try to study how it is happening. Here we need to study in reverse direction. Instead of going for this packaging, we should develop a packaging material. Need to understand the root cause. We are neglecting the root cause, what exactly is happening, and just trying to address the different aspects. Don't think that what is the packaging material available, that's how I will study. Instead of that, try to find out what is the respiration rate of the particular commodity you want to go to store. Example, if you take tomato, if you take mango, how much respiration is there? What is the shelf life I want? Okay, based upon that, you manipulate your packaging material. You get it manufactured or develop a manufacturing material that is having the water vapor transmission rate and gas transmission rate properly. If that we are able to do it, and every material has the different respiration rate, water vapor transmission rate and all. Based upon that, if we are able to develop a packaging material properly, then your product will automatically safely stored for longer duration with less intensive, less energy and all. But many industries are not ready to develop their packaging material also. But we need to develop a business, or we need to develop a entrepreneurs that or he or she will be only and only developing your base materials. If you say that tomato is required, especially this much, gas transmission this much, water transmission this much, I want this type of the material. Based upon that, one can get a manufacturers of the packaging materials and store as per the requirement, and then we can enhance the shelf life. And nowadays, many fruits and vegetables are not coming in the packages. Even chappals are sold in this AC rooms, but our fruits and vegetables, normally daily consumption material, are sold on the streets, on the areas where we are not using the proper packaging materials, especially in India. In that case, there is a very good opportunity to have a proper packaging that is developed by the packaging material for the particular commodity. And then you can pack it. There is no accumulation of the moisture in the surface or any losses. And that will be without handling. When we are making the packets, definitely the consumer is forced to buy the packet only. And he definitely lies. No doubt the packaging, plastic is one of the big problem, but that can be sorted by the biodegradable packaging. So we'll talking on the later. When we are talking about the minimal processing, as hope everyone knows that nothing minimal processing is just to the make a fresh like material, just to the cut or maybe to the peel it, wash it properly, and make it available to the consumers. Nowadays, both family members are working, husband and wife, or ladies are mainly working. They don't have the times because they have to run for the colleges, they have to run for the offices, their schools, or the businesses, or anywhere where they have to run. They have less times. And when we talk about this cauliflower, when I want to buy a cauliflower, normally it comes with the upper curd. It is normally called upper portion is called as curd, and the bottom is the unwanted material, leafy vegetables comes, and that is almost 50-50. When you come buy the cauliflower, you will be buying the edible portion 50%, but you are paying 50% amount for the unwanted material for you. And when it is transported from the farmer's field to the mega cities or metros or so on many cities, the transportation cost is also we're adding for that unnecessary transporting in the weight. And also we are adding the garbage to the municipalities in the cities. And in the municipalities, whatsoever this garbage is developed, that is redumped into the garbage hubs. And in that garbages, we are also creating a lot of health hazards, contamination, microbial growth, and off smell, and many things, odor and all. Okay. In that case, these types of the minimal processing will be helpful for you to process a, the example I'm talking about the cauliflower. Cauliflower, it can be processed, make a chop out of it, make a readily available material, just like how we want it to eat in the household. That type of, and it will be make it properly packed and packaged. In that transportation, 50% you will reduce, and also you will fetch more double price here. And also consumer, like nowadays, the consumer size, I mentioned, the consumer purchasing power has increased a lot. For that purposes, we need to have a proper business plans and develop a system in such a way that you will get out of a very good business and good profit. But here, many people are not doing it, and because of the negligence, normally say that it is the thela wale ka kaam hai, hamara nahi hai. It's not like that. You have to come up with the new startups and businesses that it will be huge, a very huge profit. And if you are thinking just you are just selling in this mega marts, then you will not succeed. Because in the mega marts, many our mentality or our psychology is that I want to buy on the market street. I want to roam here and there and buy it because I have the option to bargain. In the mega marts, I have no option to bargain. Okay, that is our mentality. Apart from that, in the mega marts are only one industry or one mega mart. Whatever they're selling, that you have to buy it. But in the vendor streets, you have a number of sellers, you can buy it. But here we need to change the vendor's selling style. And in that case, you will get more profit. And that is the very good business prospectus available to the new entrepreneurs or the existing industries also. See, we're talking about this minimal processing, just cleaning, grading, and packaging properly. Just like mushroom nowadays coming already is all in market packs. Okay, similarly, other products also be there. And also we put the label MRP. We lack in the MRP in the fruits and vegetables. when the dairy products or milk was selling, they're not MRP, and the Amuls and all that started the MRP. Now the only commodity in the agriculture materials sold is the MRP based on the milk, or other materials at to come. Okay, there everyday price fluctuation will be there, but this MRP system should be brought into market, and that will be giving very good prices. Excuse me. Yeah.
Namaste, sir. Namaste. I mean, thank you, sir. Also, yeah.
Yes, sir. Yeah, in that case, normally these are the commodities. These are the commodities help us to bring the farmers and double the farmers' incomes in future. And for that purposes, the food process engineers, or process engineers, or food processing industry can play a very important roles. And the secondary agriculture is the major compounds which will be only going to enhance the farmers' incomes. That to the double what we're talking about the 2022, that is only possible only due to the processing, not on the production. Production already we reached the magnet saturation level, and that much we are not expecting any much more increases, because already we are exploiting water harvestings, water exploitations, soil health, then chemical fertilizers and many things. That is we are exhausting, and here is required the processing, and that the process engineers can do, a food process engineer, food technologist can do it. And then the combination of MAP is a modified atmosphere packaging, we know very well. In this only where minimal processing is doing, and minimal processing doing packing and just cutting and slicing and packing to the consumer requirements. Minimal processing, MAP, modified atmosphere packaging, we know very well. There only the atmosphere is controlled by the packaging, and we're not adding any gases in it, but it naturally will control it. Okay. And also the humidity controls, there the humidity is maintained. The humidity control, modified humidity packaging systems are also available. Example, I will say here the common refrigerator. Normally in household we have the refrigerators, and normally in the refrigerator says that is the for keeping the fresh, and as such it is fails to keep the fresh. If you keep a cucumber for 3 days in the refrigerator and you see it, after 3 days it will become a full shrinkage, because it is operated at a very low temperature as well as a low humidity. And when the low humidity removes from this cucumber, it will start getting shrinkage. Why I'm talking about the cucumber? Because having the more moisture in it, it will immediately you can observe it. And in other products also same, it happens. It is observing. It is only keeping cool for 1 or 2 days, but in the 2-3 days or so, it will be observing the humidity from the product. In that case, that's why the refrigerators are not so suitable for the storage. And many claim that they keep it fresh, but here they lack in the humidity maintenance. That system can be addressed by the new generation of food process engineers or the food technologists. They can think of this topic and work on that research also. Then, as I already said, the modified atmosphere packages, and this is the gas exchange, how this takes place when fruits and vegetable stores. Normally, oxygen is consumed by the fruits or vegetables when packaged, and this will be waters and oxygen, carbon dioxide removed. Here, if you reduce the oxygen and increase the carbon dioxide level, then it will be the respiration rate will be reduces, and the ripening or the stagnant will comes, and then it will be enhance the shelf life. And that I was talking about this fruits and vegetable, similar to the controlled atmosphere package or the MAP packaging. In this package, you can see similar to this one. Here, in the one package, you can see that a different one is the cauliflower, one is the different some compounds, beetroot is we kept, some broccoli, and some onion slice cut, some garlic ginger cut or paste making out of it, that can be readily when the working lady can go home buying from the market, she can go and just put in the kadai and frying pan and just fry and consume it fresh. And this is the required. This will be reduce the waste losses, post harvest losses, or waste non-edible portion wastage in the garbage, and that garbage is useful for the farmers for the make the farm-made manures, or you can feed to the animals as per requirement. Okay, That will be two benefit will be there. And here the working ladies or the persons will be directly buy fresh processed one and hygienically processed in the villages. That will be give the good quality. When the city water, it may be more contaminated, but in the villages there will be good contaminated good water that the farmers can be reused for the agriculture purposes, and that will be benefit for the farmers as well as to the consumers. That's why this types of the minimal processing is very important and is a very good market, but this should be brought into the vendors in the local markets, not to the mega marts. Okay, even some display systems can be developed. Here the attractive display methods, like when we are eating in dhaba, we may not be like to go to sit in the dhaba, but that is the same concept as adopted by the McDonald's or the KFCs and other very big fast foods agencies with good attractive glasses systems and all. Similarly, here also we need to develop the thela system that can be attract the consumers, and in that case, the proper system display and these types of the packets, if you keep, definitely everyone love to buy it. That we need to change as a process engineer or the process entrepreneurs or businesses and all. In the controlled atmospheric packaging, we know very well, we need to maintain oxygen, carbon dioxide, nitrogen level throughout the shelf life. In that case, that's why normally called as the controlled atmospheric packages. Here, one of the nitrogens or oxygen products stored, compositions and circulation continuously is going on, and it will be maintaining the throughout the shelf life till you consume. There should be oxygen, carbon dioxide level should be maintained. If you change, then the quality will be deteriorated. That's why we need to have that. And to this test, there are a number of active and different packaging systems are available. You can check the oxygen level, carbon level measurement scales, foods in the closed systems, and there are a number of instruments are available. This is mainly for the research purposes, but once the research data is generated, that can be transferred to the industries. That industry will be develop that technology. They may not be going to test the every time what is exactly, but when your technology is given to the end user, the manufacturers, he will manufacture that machines or technology that will definitely maintain that quality, and that is the requirement of the hour. Similarly, in the ripening chambers, normally we see many newses and many areas and the many aspects that here the adulteration or the carbide use or the ripening agents use are too much, and that is a many aspects. FSSI and many other food agencies are mentioning that should be safe, should be used, safe level should be used, or this safe material should be used. But many people in the hurry or they save the money, they are going for the dip of the carbides, and that will be harmful for our health. In this case, if you go for this ripening chambers, that will be somewhat costly. And also as a buyer, we too think of only 1 or 2 rupees. We don't want to buy with the properly ripened chamber costly. We see that is a 40 rupees dozen is given. Somebody is giving 30 rupees. I want to go and run and buy to the 30 rupees. Whereas we spend lakhs of rupees on the medical health. When you go for something ill or sickness, you will rush to the hospital. In the hospital, doctor will charge 500 rupees. If your medicines are 1,000 rupees, and apart from that, any other more emergency, then much more. Okay, if you are instead of spending 1,500 rupees for the doctor, you can eat healthy food that you will be giving to farmers. If you assure to farmers that I will buy your 10 rupees, but I will pay 15 rupees and I will assure to buy, then definitely farmer love to give to you. Okay. And another thing is that here, when we go to the market, we normally try to bargain with the farmers. If I go to the barber, I go to the parlor, I never bargain. Okay. Even I spend in the normally when the price rises in the market, the TV anchors will asking the lady who is coming from the beauty parlor outside. I'm not blaming all the ladies for going to beauty parlor. There is a different. But what I'm saying is that even they are spending 500 to 1,000 rupees or 250 rupees for the beauty parlor aspect. But when come out of the beauty parlor, they are saying that, oh, our budget has collapsed. हमारा budget सब बिगाड़ दिया, घर का kitchen सब बिगाड़ दिया, हमें ये कर दिया, कंगाल कर दिया. अरे भाई, साल भर farmer कंगाल होता है, उसका क्या सोच रहे हो आप? उसको सोचिए, ठीक है? You think of the farmers also. Okay, and apart from that, you are getting the very good healthy food for you. And instead of if you spend 5 rupees or extra per kg also, hardly how much quantity you are consuming? Hardly you will be consuming 1 kg per day. Any fruits and vegetables you consider, I mean maximum 5 kg. Okay, 5 to 25 rupees you are spending more, but this should not be hue and cry. No doubt there is definitely a impact will be there. The many poor people are there. There definitely the effect is there, but considering the all aspect, when the medical health, insurance, and this and that, this buying very good products is much more benefit for the your health as well as to the consumer as well as the farmers. Instead of going to the unwanted material, we are going eating the chemicals of medical medicines. That's why go for the good healthy ripening chamber systems or natural ripening. Also, there are number of aspects are there. It may be time or may not be uniform color, but taste will be very good and it is beneficial for the health. That's why I go for organic. And we know that the packaging, I was instead talking about the packaging materials and all that we know very well. It is they provide protection, easy to handling, improve the display presentations, better storage space and stock management, facilitate the display of the product's information, retain the product moisture, retain the product aroma, check the spreads of this foliage organism. When we do for packagings, it will be automatically spread. When the layman in the vendor brings the vegetables, like leafy vegetables, he is keeping in the heap, and one is spoiled or something is contaminated, everything will be spoiled. Instead of if you have proper packaging, you will be maintain the very good quality and display also, and it will be keep product in the very good condition. That's why packaging is very important, but we need to think of the packaging management also. That is the creating another problem and the other end. Another aspect is the shrink wrap packaging. Here the individual fruits are wrapped by the shrink wrapping materials, and that will be helpful for the enhancement of the shelf life, because individual wrapping means it is automatically acting as like a map, modified atmosphere packagings, and shrink wrap product will be also maintain the aroma, taste, and the moisture losses, everything. And the atmosphere is created in such a way that it will be enhance the shelf life. And in this picture, you can see this kinno from the Punjab and the Simla Mirch bell pepper. The quality, if you can see, they are different days. Up to 21 days normal storage and 46 in the cold storage capacity is same. Almost double the shelf life is possible in the shrink wrap packagings. And similarly, in the tomato also, there you can see the difference of lot of differences. And in this case, if any business want to start, it is very less investment is required, and one can start with this activities. Similarly, smart and biodegradable packaging materials. There are a number of technologies are there in the labs, and that to be come out to the farmers field. And farmers field means end users. In that case, smart and biodegradable packaging materials should be developed much more, and that to be brought into the streamline in the with the polymer packagings to replace the polymer packaging, because in the packaging, maximum food products is packed in the plastics, and that is the maximum commodity used for the packaging materials by the food commodity. Maybe the biscuits, you can take the any grains, or maybe you can take the fruits and vegetables, you can take the any commodity, or even packaged food or processed products. That maximum plastic is taking the roles in the packaging times, and that is creating huge garbage, and that is the waste material and the problem with the municipalities and the governments. In that case, proper packaging managing policies lacking in India. That should be brought into streamline, and there should be proper sizes and all. Even normally when bans on the plastic comes, they say this much micron should be not less than this one. If you really go to this packaging systems, if you divide the packaging material, the big players are there manipulating a lot. Okay, and the small manufacturers or small manufacturing, they suffer here, and the big manufacturer, if you want to buy a shampoo, if you see the shampoo outer layer, it is even less than that what the micron suggested. Okay, there are 2-3 layers are attaching, and they're making it, and when you desegregated, when they segregated each layers, it is less than, and that is normally going to make a problem with the drainages and other problems in the landfilling. But the small entrepreneurs, small industries is targeted, and they are banned to stop it. But even you can take the very good reputed brands materials, extruded products also. That also they have different layers. Okay, and that is also they're not meeting exact standard, but they're combining it together and they're making it as a plastic. And when it is discarded, it will be definitely segregated from some gum attached or the material attached. It will be separated, and once it's separated, then it is less than the required micron will be fall, and then it will create problems there. That problem is that should be sorted out and addressed properly. here the smart packaging we're talking. Smart means what normally the many people they develop the technologies and already available in the market. The sensor base and then the microbial load, contaminations and all. The packaging material, when the initial slides I was saying that the packaging we should address more on the packaging materials. Packaging material, development of packaging material. That should be indicated. If I'm packing any food products, that should be have a shelf-life indication. If the microbial load is increasing, that automatically the color should be get changed. When the color get changed, you will understand that it is going to just like a traffic light. Green is there, go ahead. When it is the yellow is coming, then you have to think of stopping. And if you red, then you have to completely stop it. Similarly, the packaging material should be developed in such a way that it will be showing that your product is safe for consumption. If it's going to microbial growth increasing, then how many days it can be till we can consume it. And if it is converted into the red color or some other colors of the indicator, then it can not consumable or not fit for consumption. Then we will throw her. Similarly, in that case, one can manage properly that if it is the color change systems of packaging materials there, he or she can definitely think and discard it. Even the many brands, they 9-month life, shelf life, 3 months shelf life. Even though the as per my experience and knowledge, even some products are not fit for the consumption, but shelf life is mentioned as 6 months. And even though some products are fit for consumption, but that shelf life is only 6 months or 9 months. In that case, this packaging material will helpful. Actually, shelf life is going to expire or not. And apart from that, many people they manipulate the dates. Even it is a printed packed in the 2019, they will label as a 2020, and so on. That I'm not involving that activity, but what I'm saying, I'm not going to talk of that activity, but I'm saying that this is happening in the system. That should be controlled. And the food specific packaging, as I mentioned, that should be developed. And smart packaging that will give the output immediately, that visually you can understand what exactly is happening. Either should I buy the product or not to buy. And when I'm buying a product within the packaging material, that should be having the biodegradable natures. There are a number of natural materials are used for the developing the biodegradable films. That biodegradable film will be naturally degrade as and when its shelf life is over. Maybe and it can be manipulated. The manipulation is possible in the development of biodegradable films. Maize starch, cornstarch, and many things. Okay, proteins also, protein films are also developed. Those all be helpful. And when it come in contact with photo degradables, in the come in contact with lights, it will automatically degrade. Degrade means not splitting into small particles. It should be actually degrade, just like a compost. Okay. And here normally many aspects of many industries says our plastic also get degraded because they only the molecules are separated and the film is not intact. It is a broken, but it is not actually degraded. It is remain plastic, will be remain in plastic. That's why we should have natural material packaging material developed from the natural material. Method also many people are using the traditional